Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hey, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Great to see. Great to see a great turnout today. We're excited to hear the pitches. Without any further ado, we want to get started. So we're just about 2 minutes past the hour. It's a good time to start. Any late stragglers are probably in here. So we're going to start. We'll do a brief presentation on my end. It'll be probably, 7 to 10 minutes. And then we're going to start with the pitches. So if you have any problems with that, let me know. And otherwise, we're going to get started right away. Can everybody see my screen?
Coming up. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. So everybody, welcome to the Energy Showcase, which is April's focus. We got a full year ahead of us of many awesome showcases with great different industries. But the Energy Showcase, to focus in on the moment right now, it's going to be a fantastic event. Just a quick overview of the agenda. Today, we're going to have the opening remarks. That's the first couple minutes. And then we're going to jump right into the pitches, where the first session is open topic, as is our custom. And then we're going to be focusing in on with the actual energy topic of today, which is going to be 2:10 to 3:10 Eastern. Eastern is renewable and alternative energy, followed by 3:10 to 4 p.m. And then we'll wrap up the event with power management and supporting systems. Okay, a little bit about us. Everybody knows about us right at this point if you're on, but I'll just give a brief overview. We believe very strongly in the power of community to empower deep tech towards market. Because the reality is it's really hard to develop deep tech in and of itself in development, and to bring it to market is another big challenge, but it can happen. It helps to have friends in high places. And also if you're a corporation who's looking to solve some sort of industry challenge they have, or you're government, or you're an investor, you're looking for a great investment opportunity. Well, here's an opportunity to identify great startups on the one hand, and for the startups to identify great partners or potential, board members, investors, and the like. What anchors our showcase community is a monthly event, but there's a lot of activity that goes in between. We do guided introductions, which is basically the stakeholders, which are tech scouts from major corporations, investors, and tech scouts from government, tell us what they're looking for, and we become de facto scouts for them to find companies within our network that could be relevant for them. We share information on these companies, and introductions follow. Anchoring our ecosystem, like I said before, is a monthly pitch event where we're going to culminate the year with, actually it's going to be the beginning of 2023, with a Deep Tech Summit, which is in parallel to the CES. We're going to have a satellite event, which is going to be focused only on deep tech. So if you're, looking to not get lost, but to actually make the CES a profitable and productive conference for you, highly recommend talking to us about the summit itself. So we're at the energy event for April 27th, and then next up is coming Smart Cities, followed by the third wave of AI. So we've got some good things to look forward to. Smart Cities is going to be on May 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are interested in attending as a panelist, potentially also pitching, talk to us about it. A little bit of background about us. This is our team. Just a quick announcement. We always like to celebrate Asher Rudensky, who's usually on the line. He's our director of operations. He just became a father, so he's not going to be with us today. But congratulations to him.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. We're part of a larger organization called Deep Tech Crossing, which enables companies to go to market with a variety of business development-oriented services. Our focus is on R&D contracts and grants, pilot contracts, fundraising, and sales management. So we intend to be that one-stop shop for a deep tech startup going to market. What we are not is we're not interested in life science related technology, fintech, consumer goods, and I put within life science, just to double back, anything in the pharmacy or medical device or digital health space. Wait, important plug. So I mentioned the schedule. This is an off-scheduled event. On May 12th, we're having a very interesting, unique event, which is going to be for companies that are eligible for a match funding initiative from the United States Air Force, called StratFi or TACFi. This is a unique part of an accelerator that we run around this program. So if you're an investor or you're from the Air Force and you want to take a look at companies that are eligible for this match funding, I highly recommend coming out to it, and you can be in contact with us after the event. from the perspective of an investor, this particular match funding opportunity is for companies that already have identified an Air Force customer. So it's basically a bridge to help them go from a prototype to a commercially ready product, so they can sell to a customer. Your investment doesn't even have to be guaranteed. It can be conditional on the Air Force funding the company. So it's a great opportunity to help get a really great company invested in doubly, where half of it is non-dilutive, is coming from the government side. Back to today's event. Today's open topic, we're joined by an awesome panel. I'll just introduce the panel really quickly, and then we'll hold off to the next one. We got Olivier Demond from Kineo Finance, from Conscience in DC is Gauri Jaswal, Hanco from the Soccer Group, Chloe Holzinger from The Engine, from former United States Air Force officer Ed Laverdew, from DIU, or the Defense Innovation Unit, Marshall Witkowski, Micron Technologies, Andrew Beiners, and Next Gear Ventures, Yoav Weiser. Pitching today, we have Clean Connect AI, OpenX, Sereniasat, Argenteel, FISNA, and AI Strategy Corporation. So that sets the stage. I think I'm on time also. So let's get started with the first pitch. We're going to be hearing from Tom George, who is CEO and founder of Sereniasat.
Thank you. So you're going to be putting up my presentation, Josh and Brian?
Brian's going to be, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Brian. So I'll request next slide when I finish my spiel. So again, I'm very, very grateful to Deep Tech Showcase for inviting Sereniasat to participate in this exciting session. My aim is to keep my presentation short, and so I'll cut to the chase and say exactly why we're here. We're here because we are tackling an enormous global problem of both acquiring and rapidly processing global Earth observation data into actionable information for multiple global business verticals. And we have an urgent and immediate need, as Josh mentioned, to find an interested US Air Force or US Space Force partner, as well as an investor for the US Air Force TAC-5 program. So next slide, please. Sereniasat is aimed at creating an entirely new H-cubed global Earth observation data and information market. For those of you who are not familiar with this area, I will explain in detail what this means further on in the presentation. Next slide, please. We have intentionally kept our core team small because we have spent the last 6 years of our existence proving our core value proposition through contract revenue, both from commercial and from government customers. And along the way, Sereniasat has built up a large and comprehensive ecosystem consisting of big and small commercial companies, prominent US government organizations such as NASA, USGS, the Air Force Research Laboratory, and multiple academic institutions. Next slide, please. The key business problem, the key business problem we are addressing is the lack of actionable global satellite H-cube data and information on a daily basis for multiple business verticals. Current solutions have adopted an ad hoc, or rather disjointed approach of collecting information that is mostly local and regional with a smattering of satellite data. Sereniasat's H-cubed information will enable the holy grail of having daily data-driven decisions globally in multiple business verticals. Next slide, please. So thanks to our winning 7 highly competitive US Air Force SBIR projects, Sereniasat has successfully developed deep learning algorithms that can rapidly process big data on high-performance edge computers. And here, if you can click, Brian, in this case, if you click the slide, yeah. Brian? Yeah, there you go. In this case, we have found a single flying airplane within a 100 square kilometer multispectral satellite scene, and this was processed at the edge in under 45 seconds. So next slide, please. Brian, next slide. Complex daily decision-making in multiple global verticals requires the HCube data that I was talking about and information that Saraniasat acquires and processes along all three information axes, and these are space, time, and spectrum. Next slide, please. As with the internet and the smartphone data markets, the global market potential for Earth observation satellite data and information is gigantic and spread across multiple business verticals. In this regard, Saraniasat has had significant success in getting early traction for generating both commercial and government sector revenue. Next slide, please. And here I'm reiterating important points about why Saraniasat has the exciting potential to create an entirely new disruptive global data market. Next slide, please. Our current competition can be divided roughly into satellite data acquisition companies or satellite data analytics companies. And examples of satellite data acquisition companies are Planet Labs and Maxar, while data analytics companies include Descartes Labs or Esri. However, no one is currently acquiring or processing Saraniasat's proposed HCube data. Next slide, please. Ultimately, Saraniasat's roadmap, in combination with our ecosystem partners, calls for putting up a constellation of 15 HCube Earth observation satellites to radically change how Earth observation data is acquired and utilized in daily global verticals. Next slide.
30 seconds.
Yeah, next slide, please. Brian, next slide. Yeah, this slide summarizes Saraniasat's go-to-market strategy, and I'll describe it in detail if there are questions. So next slide, please. Next slide, Brian. Our ask is for both the $1.8 million investment as well as the strategic U.S. Air Force, U.S. Space Force partner. The total $3.6 million will allow us to do an exciting in-space demonstration of a key HCube building block, namely high-performance edge computing of big data in space. Next slide. Finally, in conclusion, we have a well-laid-out roadmap of concrete milestones on our path to implementing our ultimate HCube satellite data constellation. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm ready for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So just a quick, for anybody who's new to the network, you can raise your hand and join Tor, the line if you want to ask a question, and we can move on from there. So Han, followed by Yoav.
Thank you. Hey, George, good presentation as always, enjoyed it. Could you tell a little bit about your pricing scheme? I know we talked about it a little bit more. Also, second question that I have is that, are you connected with NGA, National Geospatial Space Agency? So two questions.
Yes.
Price scheme, yeah.
Okay, so let me answer both. On the pricing scheme, as you know, will depend on the vertical, right?
Right.
And so for agriculture, for instance, the going rate is dollars per acre, right? I mean, so it's a few dollars per acre depending on the quality of the information that you provide. Whereas in other verticals, it'll be per megabyte, based on how they consume that data. And yes, I do have connections with the NGA through the Air Force programs that I'm in.
Okay, but you through the Air Force though, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Have you, there are some grant programs and things like that, because I'm involved with them. That's why I know some, I have some connections there. So let's talk offline later on. Maybe I can help you out on that. Okay, thanks.
No problem. Happy to do that. Thank you.
Hi, Tom. My question, the data from the satellite, is it proprietary for your company or is it available for everyone?
I'm sorry, I am not able to hear you very well. Could you please repeat that question?
Yes, the data from the satellite, the images, is it proprietary for the company or is it open for everyone?
It will be proprietary to the company because we would be the ones acquiring it. As you know, in the satellite business, there is no mass manufacturing model, right? So each satellite is customized for a particular mission or a purpose. And so this H-Cube satellite constellation will be designed by Saranishchat and implemented with onboard high-performance onboard compute.
Okay. Time for one last question from Olivier.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. Two questions very quickly. First of all, what is your current traction with your customers? So I see you are discussing with Bayer, for instance. And the second one, in your roadmap, you first tackled the software, then the hardware. I've seen actually a lot of companies, especially in the space industry, doing the opposite. So maybe you can give us a bit more information about how you have decided to take this path.
That's an excellent question, Olivier, because I'm a long-time NASA hand. I've spent the bulk of my 3-decade career with NASA. And so, in fact, I was the project manager of the first ever CubeSat flight. So I had no idea it would take off into such a large industry. But new space, as we call it, all this new emergence of private companies into space, it started out kind of like the .com, in the sense that they were launching satellites for the sake of launching satellites without really thinking about the business case first. Right? So I had that opportunity to review what has already been done by all these companies such as Planet Labs and a whole bunch of Skybox, you name it. And then figure out, I mean, for them, the business case was the afterthought. Yeah. So instead, what I've done is flip it around, where the business case is the determining factor, and then we design the satellite for the requirements for that sector.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. Actually, in Switzerland, you have Space for Impact that is actually looking at it. If you want, we can have a chat offline and
oh, absolutely, I would love it. I mean, I'm you know, Bayer, as you know, is very, very enthusiastic about data for satellites. I mean, agriculture, unfortunately, has always been the poor cousin at the table when it comes to data that is specifically tailored for agricultural applications.
Yeah, let's take it up. Thank you.
Absolutely, happy to.
Excellent. So thank you, Tom. We're moving on to the second pitch of the open topic. And we're going to be hearing from Luke Coates, who's the COO of Clean Connect.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Luke. I'm excited for the audio, Luke. Sounds like you got a good audio situation up there.
Okay, good. That's not coming through very clear. Is it clear to you guys?
Sound clear, actually. Loud and clear.
Okay, yeah. My name is Luke Coates. I'm the co-founder and COO of Clean Connect AI. We specialize in AI in the energy sector. You can click on to the next one. We saw a problem specifically in oil and gas that we believed that oil and gas operators could leverage vision systems to increase operations and efficiency. I've been in the oil and gas industry specifically for just over 10 years, and we saw some major problems that needed to be solved. Next slide. But along with those problems with operational efficiency, we found regulatory challenges that we believe that we could help with as well, using vision systems and computer vision to help meet these regulations and a lot of the things that make the biggest impact on our environment. So we believe that we can make the biggest difference within the oil and gas sector. So these regulatory challenges, I'm from Colorado, and Colorado, I am very confident to say, is the most heavily regulated agency in the world. We have seen regulations like nobody else has seen. And so we saw some issues, and we wanted to solve the issues with ESG investors, with state regulators, with federal regulations, with the EPA, with the Canadian EPA, with Global OGMP 2.0, which is Oil and Gas Methane Partnership, with buyers of clean energy, and now the SEC on being able to prove your methane intensity. Next slide. So we use computer vision to automate HSE and ESG and operations. Our main focus when we originally founded the company and started, we got on actual live facilities and we started building a machine model to detect gas. VOCs are volatile organic compounds that are in gas, and we wanted to be able to see everything in real time. I'll explain that. But along with the VOC gas detection, we found other models with low-cost sensors, with thermal and optical cameras to help increase efficiency and lower emissions. Next slide. So we use a EPA certified, the only EPA certified camera, QuadAway certified camera that we can see every VOC with our technology. Next slide. So we pair this QuadAway certified camera with our machine model to produce visual telemetry data. Okay, click. We integrate it with their SCADA system to produce visual leak detection, leak quantification, not only source level monitoring or site level monitoring, but also source level. We can zip down to the actual event and know exactly what's going on. We can create an autonomous leak detection and repair system, automated emissions inventory, and we can pair it with our other machine models. And then the last thing, one more click, is we're producing provable methane certificates, MPCs, methane provable certificates with our data, which is the first of its kind. Everything is very manual now, and I can explain that at the very end. Okay, next. You can click on the video real quick. So one of our systems can cover an entire facility, 24/7, first of its kind to actually see everything going on on a location. Next. Just click on the video there. We configure it to where we can zip right down to actual equipment. We categorize it. We categorize and inventory any kind of emissions. And if there is an event, our AI picks it up and we begin to quantify the actual event so we can automate the emissions inventory and
90
actually
seconds.
have, what's that?
90 seconds. 90 seconds.
Okay. All right. So just skip forward then. I did this in 5 minutes last time. The other technology that's really great is our non-invasive tank level monitoring. And this has lowered emissions by more than 60%, because right now measurement equipment is inside of a tank. And if there's any kind of buildup on equipment, they have to open a thief hatch, and that's a big emitter of gas. So our measurement equipment is non-invasive, and it's been a huge contributor to a major decrease in emissions. And we're within 1% of the industry standard for measuring tanks, which is really exciting. And then we go through, just click through it really quick. Just click through it and I'll be done. And then we paired it with other machine models to see liquid leak detection, any kind of spills with thermal camera, water, oil, anything. We want to know about it in real time. Just click through it really quick. I'll just talk as you're clicking through it. Hard hat recognition, so that we can see what's going on on the facility. Flame and smoke. The most important thing is, click to the next one, is that we know everything going on in real time. If there's any kind of black smoke, we want to know about it, because that means that's not regular operations, so that we can shut the facility down in real time. Next. And then we do virtual gate guard. One of our customers saved $40,000 a month just using our technology. Next. And then just to sum it up, if anybody has any questions, we can integrate that with their SCADA system, so it's not a standalone system. It doesn't have to be if they don't want it to be. And then the last slide is there's my contact information, and ProveZero.com is our digital token, our token that we take the data, we digitize it into a MPC, a methane proven certificate. that our technology is actually going to become an incentive for operators to clean their facilities, to produce clean energy, and to profit from producing clean energy, and to get a premium for their products. So if you want to check out Proof Zero, that is a white paper on what our token is and how we gather the data to prove out methane intensity. That's all.
Excellent, awesome. Open up the floor for questions. Go ahead, Han, you can ask the first question.
Yeah, just want to make it real quick here. Actually, great presentation. I really liked your solution there. Just curious, how much of intellectual property do you own or secured on this, especially that non-invasive tank monitoring? That's one question. Second question is that, are you in touch or working with the some overseas, energy industry with your solution?
Yeah, the answer to both questions is yes, we own the IP and we've developed it and created it and built the models. And then the second question is yes, we're working with operators globally in Canada and Australia, and we're starting to work with some other operators. And
any companies in Asia?
Not at this point.
Oh, okay.
Some of our global distributors though are who's going to start working over there. So.
Oh, okay, because I heard, I was talking to about a few, actually I was CES and in January, and I talked to a company who has a similar pain point. So let's talk about this later on. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, send me an email.
Okay. Yep. All right. Thanks.
Hey, Luke. My name is Chloe Holzinger. I'm from The Engine. Great presentation. Wondering what are your next steps? So what are you looking to accomplish? What kinds of milestones are you looking to do in the next year or so?
Yeah, so right now we've got a repeatable product that works for the industry. We always have one-off requests. Well, what about this? Can you do this? Can you pair it with this? And we're doing that. But our product right now is something that has proven valuable to the industry. And so right now we're just scaling. We're trying to scale as quickly as possible because one is they have to prove their methane intensity to the SEC, to their investors. Two, they have very, very aggressive methane intensity goals. And we believe our product is going to help them achieve those goals. So I guess the ask is we are talking to investors based on just the scalability size. Our product's already live on facilities. We've been live for several years, but now we're really scaling based on some of the regulations.
Got it. Thank you.
Luke, thank you for the presentation. I would love to know what the status quo is to quantify and detect leaks without, I guess, placing that inside a tank, and if there's any trade-offs with having the detection systems or cameras outside the tank.
So the first question is how do we detect the tank level?
Yeah.
That would be a question for our engineers that could articulate that a little bit better than I can, but essentially it's a thermal camera, and that we've trained it against the actual data and use deep learning to get within the tolerances that they've wanted. And then what was the other question? Sorry.
No worries. If there's any trade-offs with having the detection systems being non-invasive and outside of the tank.
There is some trade-offs. One is if it has any kind of a insulated section around it, you can't see it. So in some of the very cold areas, we're coming up with other technologies to help with a non-invasive monitoring system. But most of the areas in Texas and New Mexico and even Colorado are not insulated tanks, so we can see the tank levels. And another advantage is it reduces capital expenses because the measurement equipment internally is very expensive. So they have a capital saving, and then they like to use the software for the tank level. So.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, for the questions. We're going to take a pause here. We're about to start the next pitch, but first we want to get a chance. We like to jump into it sometimes, and so we can get to the pitches, but we want to meet the panel a little bit. So we're going to do a quick round robin just with the panelists, just a little brief background about who you are and what you're looking for in general. Then we'll move on to the next presentation. So Han, how about you start?
Sure. My name is Han Ko. I'm founder and CEO of an international investment company called the USACO Group. What's unique about us is that we are actually a true VC company operating based on North America, which I live, and then I have an office in Seoul, South Korea. So I have a close ties to Asian market. So that's why I was asking a lot of questions about Asian market. Okay. So you probably are hearing me saying that a lot. So just want to warn you. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, Olivier.
Yes, sorry. So I'm Olivier Demont. I'm working at Kino Finance, and Kino Finance, basically, we help young startups to grow and to enter basically commercialization phase with helping them basically to put in place a hardware as a service business model. Basically, we finance the hardware through a venture leasing approach, and we also participate in equity on an occasional basis. So please reach out, and happy to give you more explanation on it.
Thank you. Gori, want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Gori, investor at Conscience VC. We're an early stage firm investing in pre-seed, early seed companies. And our thesis really is to invest at the intersection of consumer and science. So very technically defensible companies have some sort of IP moat, really science-backed or science-led. And then mostly consumer facing, whether that's direct to consumer or B2B2C, although we're very sector agnostic as well. Average check sizes are between 100 to 250K. And where I would say we're most helpful to founders is with fundraising, helping them close their rounds, and then with future Series A, Series B fundraising, et cetera.
Awesome. Glad to have you with us. Okay, Chloe.
Hey everyone, my name is Chloe Holzinger. I'm an associate at The Engine. We are a pre-seed and seed stage VC investor, headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Our focus is on tough tech companies. We mostly invest in companies based in Massachusetts who are coming out of academic labs. But as with all rules, we've broken that several times and invested in a couple of companies in other parts of the US and out of industry and not just academia. But yeah, looking forward to hearing everybody else's pitches today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also happy to have you with us. Marshall Witkowski.
Sure. My name is Marshall Witkowski. I'm working at the Defense Innovation Unit in our energy portfolio. We're looking for companies with products that are commercialized or about to be commercialized that we can purchase on behalf of the military. Thank you.
Awesome. Yoav Weiser.
Yes, hi everyone. Yoav Weiser from Next Gear Ventures out of Israel, a VC fund focused on the mobility space, and one of the important segments is the energy, electrification, solar, alternative energy. So if you have any early stage ideas or companies, feel free to contact.
Awesome. Just I think we're having a little trouble hearing you. We heard you, but it's a little distant. So maybe, I don't know if there's a way to get closer to the mic or something to that effect. But happy to have you with us, Yoav. Last not least, Ed Laverdew.
Hi, Ed Laverdew, InventAb Solutions. I'm in the business of helping enterprising technologies connect with government opportunities. It was really nice to hear that Defense Energy is on the line, since I'm a past director of business enterprise at Defense Energy. I'm also Deputy Director of Education for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics for Region 4, which is Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and New Mexico. And looking forward to helping make some connections here.
Awesome. I'm glad to have everybody here with us. So we'll meet the newcomers to the next panel, but in the meantime, we'll jump right into the next pitch. We're going to be hearing from Steve Kelly, who is CEO of Argenteel. Steve, we got you with us?
There.
There you
I don't know
are.
what the spot is. Hi, I'm Steve Kelly, one of the founders of Argenteel. We're about deploying software for digital transformation, which is applicable to almost every market segment, including energy. I'll summarize that, say we're about automating DevOps automation, and I'll proceed to unpack that a bit. Please, next slide. The ops of DevOps is mostly done with scripting. Agile processes do the applications, that's the dev side. On the ops side, data centers or clouds stuff is deployed or updated using scripts. Those are like Python or PowerShell or Perl or Terraform. There's about 100 million hours spent each year scripting data center changes. Those scripts are continually rewritten from scratch, not reused. Every application has several APIs that they kind of operate with a preferred language, so every project is multi-language. And then the target for the deployment, all that data is entered manually. So at best, all the scripts in that 100 million hour project are partially reusable. Next. So engineers typically run a hand-edited script on each API. It takes about 10 to build a stack. Next. And that results in a lot of long, expensive hours sitting at a PC. Next. So we work with Gartner to position the company. This is what Gartner, this is their pictorial, fairly well organized Agile on the left, not very well organized ops on the right. Most companies have 5 to 8 tools they're currently using on the ops side, and none of them work together. We think there's a $10 billion savings to achieve in this market. We are a TAC-FI candidate because we have Air Force as our biggest customer. And here's what they say. They say fielding software on the ops side is very complex. They estimate that 2/3 of their spending is in that area. Now, the Air Force has another problem, and that is deploy quickly, use, and delete. And so rapid deployment is important. As you probably know, these are proximate resources. In other words, somewhere near the data center, and they go for about $200 an hour. That's what we're trying to cost reduce. Next. So what do I mean by automating DevOps automation? We provide a framework to glue all the existing DevOps tools together. So with our capability, you could have Ansible, Terraform, Python, and Puppet all in one Argenteel workflow. And the target parameters I mentioned are compiled into the code at the end so that you don't have to deal with them every time. We're not another scripting language. In fact, you start by uploading the scripts you already have, and we process them to make them reusable. Our software works on any layer of the stack, from bare metal to infrastructure to containers to applications or to application configuration. Works on any cloud platform, public or private. That's where we are today with the tools we just introduced. Our roadmap with some machine learning pieces in it will even further automate deployment scripting in the future. Next. So our lawyers drew this picture in one of our patents. We have 3 issued patents. Basically, the Argenteel stuff is in the blue box. We have something called a script capture tool, a workflow tool, and a data flow compiler. Using all of those things, you can do something like take a native app running on AWS and move it to a native app on Azure with equivalent VMs. That's generally considered a pretty difficult task. Next. And the value proposition for that problem, moving an app from AWS to Azure, manually, it takes about 12 hours with current tools. When you set up our tools, it takes 30 minutes. So that is a 11.5-hour savings. If it's $100 an hour, not $200 an hour, that's $1,000 savings. Our service costs $500 a month. So for that first project, your savings would only be 54%. For every other project you do that month using our tools, you would see something like a 90% savings. And there's also a quality of life and reduction of human error advantage to our technology. Next. Again, back to Gartner. They confirm this is a new concept. Very important premise is provides a platform to organize large DevOps teams. Remember, we're working with the Air Force. And why is that? Well, you let your tier 4 or really smart guys perfect the libraries. They store the libraries and the tools so that your tier 3 and tier 2 people or other people can use them, including remotely. Very important characteristic because it's a problem all over DevOps. It's well positioned to work with all the incumbents. There's some big players here, but we don't displace anyone. We work with what they already have. Next.
Steve, 30 seconds.
Okay. This is the kind of the team. My background was a Don Noble Fellow at Motorola. I founded a company called Cisco. They're called NetSolve. It was acquired by Cisco. Our lead developer is Mark Collins. He came from Dell and Flex's CTO office, so he knows that stuff very well. Jason leads our parsing and compiler effort. And just so we're not all techies, Scott Stevens is a finance and sales guy that I've worked with in several companies. Next. We're working with the Air Force. Our commercial customer is Worldwide Technology. We do a lot of business with them. And we also are working on some security things called polymorphing for Linux with a company called SliceUp. Next. So in 2021, we did 2.7 million. We think we'll do 4 million this year. The offer is we are TAC-FI eligible. You can buy about 13% of Argenteel for 1.8 million, and TAC-FI will match to another 1.8 million. So that's a 12 money pre-money valuation against the revenue plan of 4 million. So that's only a 3x multiple. We think this is a pretty attractive deal. Yeah, that investment has to be done before June 30th. Next. That's it. I will take your questions.
And just clarify a point from Steve, we don't need the investment, right? We just need a letter of commitment in order to get that. So the money doesn't have to hit the bank account, but there has to be a commitment to invest in order for the Air Force to match the funds.
But it has to be in before the award. Yes, right. That's correct. Thanks, Josh.
No problem. Any questions for Steve?
Is that because you understood it or you don't understand it?
Because it was really clear.
You have a great product. No question about that. No solution. Actually, the reason I kept quiet is I was going to give other people some chances, but
no, yeah, we've talked.
We talked.
Yeah. Sorry, just please go.
No, I was going to say we should maybe resume the talk a little bit more later. Steve, thanks.
Okay, will do. I put a 2-minute video on Argenteel in the chat box. If you want to look at it, that's an easy way to kind of do a refresher. And it'll tell you what we're about, not all the deal points and that stuff, but what we're about.
Perfect. Thank you.
Olivia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I think I wanted to say the same. I think it was great presentation, great product. Maybe one question, very high level. How would you plan your next customer strategy approach? So you're more focusing on US now government. Do you have any other customer, and what is your plan there?
Oh, good point. This is absolutely a dual use technology. We're using the Air Force because they can use it, but they can also help fund it. We are now starting a much more aggressive effort in the commercial space. We're doing some of that with Worldwide, and we're talking to Dell and Flex and all the people we know. Plus, we have a freemium version on the website to attract gig workers so they can get to know how it works.
And in terms of business model, how it works, is it a subscription or how?
Generally a SaaS model for the individual or small groups, and then a enterprise license with a supported instance for bigger organizations like the Air Force or people who want. You're right. There's an issue here. There's a very big library result. You want that to be purely private, or do you want it to be semi-public or public? So there's all sorts of characteristics, and there may be an Apple store for scripts.
Yeah.
It won't actually be Apple, but you get the idea.
Yeah, thank you.
If your time allows, can I say something real quick, Steve? So I know you work closely with Worldwide Tech, right? So
yes.
you're actually supplying your product to them. Is that what you do? I know they're closely working with the military. I mean, I know the founder, David Stewart. Actually, I know him really well, actually. But go ahead.
Well, we're doing a lot of personnel placement for them in the DevOps services space, and then they're evaluating the product to bring it in and use it in various practices.
Oh, okay, great. Well, maybe we should talk about that later. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Steve.
Sure.
Moving on to the next presentation, we're going to be hearing from FISNA, and presenting for FISNA is Bo Mangles, who's the head of enterprise marketing.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Good to see you. Thank you so much for the DTech folks for having us around. And also, I'll just give you always want to give props where props are due. And I'll just call out in the presentation before, just the ability to move a workload from AWS directly to Azure is really impressive. So for those that aren't familiar with it, it's really hard to do. So props to the folks that jumped in before it. And as I bake in 30 seconds of my time pitching somebody else on the good work that they've done, I'm going to go ahead and jump into FISNA and explain to you how we as a software as a service are connecting our mission of empowering human innovation by connecting the physical and digital worlds, and what that means in a very abbreviated space, specifically around the example of procurement, but we can dive into a lot more after that if you guys are interested. So go ahead and go into the next slide, please. And the way that we build our product, for those that aren't familiar with us, is we are building around a geometric search company. And that's the product and the design of product that we build. And the reason we're focusing specifically on geometric search, if you go to the next slide, is because from a manufacturing point of view, and explicitly meaningful for energy companies and anybody who builds physical products, is that 3D data or geometric data is the foundation of all manufactured products. But the question that we began asking ourselves several years ago was, how do we search for it? How do we actually search all of the vast libraries of 3D data within 2D computing constructs? And what we realized is it really isn't a great way to do that. So if you move into the next slide. And the reason for this is because all of these different intricacies that you see from this plane that's actually flying through the sky are built using highly specialized and highly bespoke products, because they need to be. There's certain regulatory requirements that they have to be able to meet. There's certain quality standards that you have to be able to set, but there isn't really a great way of identifying each and every part that exists within this specific model. And the reason for that is simple, and it's a very lofty and big idea that comes down to the difference between 2D or binary search criteria versus 3D search criteria. So if you go ahead and click next, 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 I'm going to talk through those three things because there's a build here. Oh, go ahead. Yes. So the way that companies and organizations of all shapes and sizes today look for each of these existing parts is based on 2D algorithmic hashes. So that's either the part number that someone in procurement is going in and looking up to see which bolt specifically applies to which assembly. There's the SKU number of which somebody in the purchasing team is going out to go and buy bulk orders of those bolts. And then there's the text piece of that, which is just simple. Think of like Google search bar. It's like, where can I find this fastener? But all of those things leave out a lot of the geometric properties that become really meaningful when you are going and building a product in real time. So go ahead and click next. And that impacts every aspect of the concept, the design, the procurement, and the manufacturing and the logistics process. And we have use cases for all of them. But as I said about 2 minutes ago, I'm going to focus specifically on the power that geometry and searching for something in a geometric way has to do within the procurement process. And it's as simple as where you're spending your money. So if you go ahead and click next, and you click next again, you're going to notice that you have two distinct parts that are sitting in front of you. And these are both fasteners. Geometrically, they look very similar. But if you think about how you would find these things today, if you're looking through either like an ERP or a PLM system, you're going to notice that they both here have different names. And that's not because they are geometrically different. They are the exact same. It's because someone at some point in time decided to place that label on top of that specific object but in reality, they are the same. And so the downstream impact on that from a procurement point of view is simply, if you click the next slide, and then if you click the next slide again, is that you're getting, we'll go back to it, is that you're getting two distinct cost models that are coming because you're purchasing parts from different locations. And the reason for that is because different people have different costs assigned to very, very similar products. The challenge becomes in being able to bring that level of visibility to people across your organizations. So the fact of looking at two things from a geometric point of view versus a text point of view adds a tremendous opportunity to cut back on a lot of different procurement costs. And as we go back with the few minutes that we've got, I'll talk through some of the other pieces of where FSNA comes into play. So go ahead and put next slide. This comes back to when we look at the analysis, and we sat down and worked a lot with Dr. Michael Greaves, who is the founder of the Digital Twin. And from here, it's the ability for computers to move from a 2D comparison to a 3D comparison as a potential quantum leap in capability and value creation. And that becomes something that's really impactful for everyone across the world for who are designing and building products and want to be able to do it in a very quick way. So go ahead and click the next slide. And go ahead and click the next slide after this, because I want to get back into the use case one more time. This is the slide that it's like I really want to leave you guys on and really want to help answer and field any questions around. But when we take a look at objects at the geometric level, your ability right out of the box to reduce design times, to clean up your excess inventory, to improve accurate search results that in turn also reduce design
About 30
times,
seconds.
and build in maintenance operation procedures around that dramatically increase, all based on geometric visibility into the parts that you already have. The other piece that comes with that is think through the implications of that from a supply chain point of view. So you're going out and you're building a motor and you have 20 different types of fasteners that you have attached to that. Maybe you don't need to go and buy that fastener from supplier ABC that's like offshore, like sitting in China. You can go and actually buy that from supplier BCD that's sitting right here in Texas and actually reduce the shipment times across the board, all because you're able to see this based on its actual object geometry. So there's a lot more that we could go into that. And if you want to go into it in more detail, I'm happy to set up some time with you and think through that together. But with that, I'll wrap it up and we can move into any questions that you guys might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we'll open up the floor for questions for Bo. Well, I missed it at the end. Did you make a clear ask what you're looking for?
The clear ask is anybody who's interested in talking more about FSNA, you can just reach out to us. We're happy to share more.
I like that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yep.
With the extra minute or two you get for it, can you talk about where you're at product wise and why that's your ask?
Well, right now it's like, thank you for that question. So product wise, it's like we're about 2 years in the development cycle of the product. We've received funding we're outside of the direct startup space, receiving funding from both Tiger Global, Drive Capital, and Sequoia to go and scale into more spaces within the manufacturing space itself. We are deep in the droves of like pure go-to-market. So we're in the process. We've developed a lot of good POCs with early stage customers and collecting a ton of feedback on them as we go and prepare for broader enterprise scale, which is what we're in the process of doing now. So as far as where are the areas where we really lean into deep tech and what we can do together, we're looking for feedback loops, customer introductions, and also partnerships capabilities and channel optimizations of getting our product more in front of people. I know you talked, I'm blanking on your name, about getting access and gaining access into China. We have one partner that's actually based out of Japan who's helping us do such work, but any opportunities to partner with folks there becomes a really advantageous thing for us too. So that's a very quick TLDR on that.
So, okay. And so if we have any more questions for Bo, thank you so much that was Bo Mangles from FSNA. And if you have any questions, you can be in touch with him over the chat or over email. Next up is Dave Maroxa, from President and CEO from AI Strategy, aka 9High. The floor is yours, Dave. David, are you good to go? Yeah, no, we can't. Oh, you're still muted. But I'm practicing my lip reading skills. I'm doing pretty good. I'll give you a minute to figure it out. Maybe what we'll do is if Cody's ready to go, maybe we'll flop with him and David. In the meantime, we can figure out how to unmute.
Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. You guys
Perfect.
can go ahead and throw me in.
Yeah,
unless
sorry,
there's-
my internet's been blanking out this morning.
Cool. Okay, well, we hear you fine now.
Okay, I can, if you want to pull the screen back up, I can run through it.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that, everybody. Just looking for the screen. Do you have it up there? There we go. Okay. Yeah, so 9High is, sorry, my screen's getting blanked out. There's like black boxes all over it.
Try
Yeah,
one more
we-
time. You might have a black box on there. I think there's a lag for everybody's internet today. It's looking.
Let's try one more time.
There you go.
So 9High is a novel AI-enabled platform to accelerate development of new technologies, really any type of technology for any type of application. What we want to do is accelerate development, increase the rate of success, and reduce the risks and costs along the way. And by doing that, we're creating a knowledge marketplace. Next. So the need, we were currently funded by the DoD through our phase 3 SBIR. And what we're doing is we're directly attacking the valley of death. And you can see from the right-hand side that as far as the SBIR program itself, for every $10 that they invest, they only have $1 of success, 10%. And if we take that and apply it across global spend for global R&D, you can see well over $1 trillion in waste that happens really every single year. And that's really due to the valley of death, and that's what we're attacking with 9High. Next. It's not any easier for investors or enterprises either. I'm sure all the investors that are on the line also have issues with this as well. What we really need to do is make key decisions correctly. And there's a lot of different stakeholders who need to do that. And often they lack the necessary information, priorities, and processes to be consistently successful. So that's what 9High will be addressing. Next. The reasons for failure and is that decisions lack context. 9High is this decision support platform for technology development. They lack context, actionable intelligence, and knowledge from prior similar experiences. So we want to capture that type of information, feed it forward to people actually exactly what they need and when they need it. This results in often choosing the wrong innovation in the first place. They just start off in the wrong direction. They have no or limited knowledge share across the organization. They'll often have a failure to identify red flags early on from the beginning of the development program. So they will have a certain amount of time and money in order to go forward and develop the technology that they're working on. And because they fail to identify these red flags, they'll go off track very quickly, or they'll lose confidence in their investors, either within their own company that's funding it or with their customer base. And then also making subjective and biased decisions or missing critical risks in the first place. Next. This is backed up by these three companies, at least. Bain & Company, Cloverpop, and Gartner. Most people are probably familiar with Bain & Company and Gartner, and both definitely correlate business success to decision effectiveness. And it's according to Gartner, it's one of the top trends for 2022, and one of the growing issues as far as artificial intelligence for decision guidance for businesses. So what we're tackling is really the technology selection, development, and deployment portion of that. Next. So this is actually a process that I've used for over 15 years personally. I did it using a very manual process, and actually started it back in 1999 when I was running a business unit for a large Japanese company, where I needed to break down problems and really explain things in very simple terms due to differences in language capabilities. And what we're really doing here is we're turning subjective information into objective guidance and qualitative opinions into quantitative decisions. So we've done this through a very mathematical approach using some mathematical power sets that I'll be showing you in a minute here. But again, we're using this throughout the entire technology lifecycle, very specifically for selection of technologies, development technology, and deployment of those technologies. Next. So how does it work? We're using really a new novel AI methodology for decision guidance. And you'll see with this 2-layer power set that we've developed, it's actually the same power set that I've used, like I said, since going back to 1999 and very effectively over the last 15 years to actually structure and have guided structure to how artificial intelligence helps us, and how we also guide the subject matter experts in their collaboration process as they go through selection, development, deployment of various technologies. And what we end up doing is letting machines do what they do best by accessing external databases, prior experience databases, and performing rapid calculations and feeding that forward along with an SME team that bring context and make final decisions. Next. This is really the core, the essence of how 9High works. On top level, the top level power set, if you think of this, it's a guidance system. So just like, in the military, we always talk about, smart bombs, smart weapons, and that sort of thing. And just think about how much, certain weapon systems have improved once we've integrated guidance into that. It's the same type of thought process here, where we're actually guiding decisions that need to be made throughout the development process. The top level matrix is literally just the product technology, team and stakeholders, and market applications. And that is a power set into itself. There's nothing that exists outside of this power set related to risks and opportunities when it comes to bringing technology to the marketplace. And then within each one of these top level elements, we then have another power set underneath. So when you look at the 9 measures that we're going to show you: appeal, value, reliability, personnel, planning, processes, and finances, size of scope,
Dave,
demand,
30
delivery.
seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to need more time because it wasn't working earlier. But realistically, it didn't. Every opportunity exists within these 9 measurements. Next. So how does the process work? We combine these 5 AI agents with SME team selection, risk identification solutions, success factors, and success evidence, along with the collaborative team to get these 9 measures. Next. So the 9 measures you can see here very quickly point out where the issues are with the developments with technology that you want to select for investment, develop, or deploy. And again, it's a holistic process that looks at everything from, say, low TRLs to high TRLs or into deployment. Next. And the benefits of it, obviously, to bring more high priority technologies forward faster, to have actually smarter AI agents that grow along with the technologies. The more often we use this platform and these AI agents, the better they'll be at making recommendations as it goes forward. Improved decisions and collaboration. Of course, there's limitations due to cultural issues when it comes to collaboration, but as much as people do want to collaborate, we'll be supporting that type of effort. The big issue here is we're retaining institutional intelligence, and we're reducing costs as we go forward for different development programs. Next. Traction, we have SBIR success with phase 1 and phase 2. We're halfway through phase 2. We were actually awarded phase 3 for a total of $9.3 million commitment from the Office of Secretary of Defense for Defense Production Act Title III. We just started that in September. And again, we're open for Strat 5 funding. If anybody wants to talk to us about that, that'd be great. We do have the first pilot will be rolling out in June. And that's MVP 1. And we have 2 other MVPs that will be rolling out in the next 6-month increments. As far as commercial traction, we do have support from this Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft, Anu Gupta. He's very interested in technology. We have an NDA with them where he's actually helping us with multifunction team with as far as security, AI, machine learning development in their business group. We also have traction from several other partners, including MXD and the National Armament Consortium. Next. These are the top IT contractors. We have 3 of these that are involved. 2 of them we can't discuss due to non-disclosure agreements. Next. We can go back. So the revenue streams we're looking for, we're going to be getting revenue from SME subscriptions, from enterprise subscriptions, and then also as transactional fee. Again, we believe we're building a new marketplace. We'll be taking fees when they start working together. And finally, next. So the ask, we are seeking Air Force MOU stakeholders to help us with the Stratify, any other DoD partners or IL5 types of work. We are in IL4 right now, so any other partners for more secure environments we're very interested in talking to. And again, any companies that are technology intensive that wants to accelerate their technology development on the way. We do have an immediate financial need for, we're doing a $3 million convertible note that we're just wrapping up with the lawyers. And we have a deck available if anybody's interested in that. We will be doing a round in about 18 to 24 months. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Open up the floor for questions.
I'll go first, actually, if nobody's ready yet. You have the secure all this based on some kind of intellectual property, correct?
Sure. So we
Right.
have both a patent application as well as we have SBIR rights for U.S. government work.
Okay, got it. And then the 3 million you're asking, what kind of valuation are you thinking about there?
So we have revenue from development contracts. We do not have recurring revenue yet.
Right.
So we cannot project the valuation of the company. That's why we're doing a convertible note.
Convertible notes.
To give people 8% plus probably about 20% as a conversion benefit when we go to our A round.
Gotcha.
By the A round, we'll have a valuation of the company. It'll be post recurring revenue.
Gotcha. Right. You have a great product, actually. I like that. So maybe we can talk later on. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Thank you.
Yeah, my email's in the chat room. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Anyway, we have time for one more question from Dave. Okay, if there are no more questions, we're gonna move right on to it and check if there are any questions in the chat. We're gonna be hearing from the last company of the open topic. OpenX is gonna be pitching, and we're gonna be hearing from Cody James, who is the CEO and founder.
There, everyone. Just testing to see if you guys can hear me.
All good.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to try to cover quite a bit of ground here in only 5 minutes. So I hope everyone can hold on and keep that next slide button ready. Really encourage all the questions we can possibly ask. OpenX's objective is to enable a future workforce. We're working to solve the ecosystem to promote the closure of this massive skill gap that is developing. If you go to the next slide. We see that over time, technology has grown at what appears to be more of an exponential pace. If we look back at the growth of specific technical labor talent, this has grown at more of a what would be represented as a linear rate. This results in significant shortages in the talent that we need and prevents us from being hyper-competitive in business or as a country and in any other means. If we can go to the next slide. We see that this is essentially just a supply and demand gap. On the left side, we see Department of Labor for the first time since World War II. We actually surpassed the amount of hires with our job openings, showing that this spike is growing, at a rate that is unsustainable. The solution that the world has came up with so far is not actually to really improve the training and education of skilled workers, but instead we've created this middleman market known as recruiting and staffing, which, believe it or not, actually surpasses even the revenue of education and training. Recruiting and staffing averages around a 250 to 300 billion annual revenue. The top companies in this field generate an average of about $25 billion in annual revenue. Again, these are middlemen in a supply and demand problem. They go search an existing limited supply pool for the talent that they need. And on the other side, then they charge extraneous fees to companies. And companies are fine with that because there's nothing more expensive than not having the talent that we need at the time that we need it. We believe that this is a short-term solution to a much larger problem, and we believe we have a solution for it. Next slide, please. OpenX decided to take on this problem by rethinking the foundation of the skill training ecosystem. We started on training and education for specific technical skills by developing computer-based or digital trainings on very in-demand niche technical skill sets, such as robotics, computer design, digital transformation, and more. On one side, we hired people that have backgrounds at Netflix and are incredible at storytelling, animations, and more. We created great story formats that surpassed, any reasonable metric for what we're used to in terms of digital training, accomplishing over our tens of thousands of users and 90% plus engagement rate and completion rate, which is really unheard of in this field. On the other side, to fund the development of our understanding of the workforce problem and these skills and the IP that is underlying there, we have sold this service to the Department of Defense as well as enterprise, and we've predominantly focused on aerospace and defense manufacturing and engineering, which is one of the most in-demand fields and the longest lead time for finding talent in North American market. If we can go to the next slide, please. And I'm going to just blitz right through this and talk more about it. So in our effort there, this is actually an outdated traction slide. The new one, I can certainly provide upon request. And if anyone is interested in talking more, I can show that. But essentially, we've established ourselves to be used by over 75% of Fortune 100 American aerospace companies. Our training is used by Northrop Grumman, US Air Force, universities such as UC San Diego. We've taken over 100% of the digital training for market leaders such as Verisurf that create the technologies that are used in aerospace defense. And we've broken down the model of how these different skills go into different careers. And over time, we've built these into pathways that now any consumer could take and then earn themselves towards a career. We, with the Air Force, applied for a SBIR for this workforce technology software. And we went from phase 1 to phase 3 in just 15 months. In our phase 2, we received the full 1.5 mil for our seed round. Instead of this 130 mil 5-year IDIQ, we actually changed that to a blanket purchase agreement, which we were awarded. We were awarded about 6 now total phase 3s consecutively. And just so everyone can again see how all these pieces come together, in one of our phase 3s, Air Mobility Command paid for the development of a reverse engineering course. We built out this entire program while maintaining work product ownership over specific areas, such as metrology and quality assurance. We broke down those key skill sets into areas that would be then useful in the workforce. And then we were able to build pathways towards that. And we've now helped over 1,000 people earn careers in the aerospace field. Now, I want to emphasize on the business model here with a short amount of time. We really have built a model here where we're getting paid for development of the foundation of the ecosystem. We're being paid for the startup costs in terms of developing these programs. We've been able to build a system that is used in Japan, Germany, UK, and America, which is our Pathfinder training platform approved by the DoD. We're now in conversations with Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Lockheed, Boeing to use it across their enterprises, launching a pilot program with Northrop this year for their first 5,000 employees.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. And essentially now what we're looking to do is take the tens of thousands of people we've trained, bring them to industry. For a bit of background on me, I'm a self-taught robotics programmer. I got into Boeing at 19. I was their youngest one to work in that field. I'm a Forbes 30 under 30 in manufacturing industry. I got that at 21 for saving Boeing over 100 million on the Dreamliner program. We're raising a Series A. We're looking at 12 million for a 75 mil evaluation with the satisfying of our StratFi application this summer. If anyone's interested from a DoD or investment standpoint, I'd love to talk to you when we have more than 5 minutes.
Wow, you packed it in there. That's incredible. Questions for Cody?
This is a pretty wild idea. Like, we gotta have some questions. If we don't, I'll spend the 5 minutes answering the most commonly asked questions. So here's one. Do you guys always want to be a training company? That sounds exhausting. You don't want to be service-based. The answer is no. For us to develop the framework for the patents that we're going for, we had to really get a new look at the ecosystem of skills and the framework of qualifying a person for a career. So in the early days, we will be a training company that uses it as a way to augment, solving the skill gap. But in the long term, what we see is really it being a marketplace for all the other training companies to participate using the framework we've developed. Another question, do you always want to be a DoD company? We see this as a standalone effort. We know that consumers have the most attractive focal point, and we want to be very enterprise focused in talent acquisition. Is it profitable? This is a great question. Man, you guys ask great questions. We've been profitable since day one. I bootstrapped the company with 200K of my life savings to 250K with all the early expenditures. And we've been profitable every quarter since the first one, 2019, Q4. Now I've driven it harder in the recent years just because, R&D and development of everything. But at any time, if I took away R&D, we'd be profitable. Even just yesterday, we won another phase 3 with the US Army to take over all their 3D printing trainings. So that's about, 1.2 million, which is nice.
Awesome. Well, Cody, you handled it very quickly, you packed in a punch, and then you answered all of your difficult questions. Thank you very much. Questions for Cody. You can continue on with the chat. And with that, we conclude our open topic. Thank you so much, Cody, and also Dave from AI Strategy Corporation, aka NineHigh, Bo Mangle from FISNA, Steve Kelly from Argenteel, Luke Coates from Clean Connect, and from Sereniaset, Tom George. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to our next panel, and also we're going to move on right into the energy event itself. So we're going to be having some of the same panelists stay on, and then some new ones as well. So I'll just quickly introduce the panelists. I'll share my screen real quickly. So we're going to be joined, Olivier is continuing on from Kineo Finance. Ron Crudo is joining us. So is Pete Shork, John Lee, Hamza Edhamani. Hanko is continuing with us, so is Ed. Robert Ethier from Impact Science Ventures. Marshall is continuing with us from DIU. And I don't think Andrew made it, so we'll also be continuing with us is Yoav Weiser. So we're going to be hearing from a number of companies from S2NRG, Aqua Metals, National Energy USA, and Strata Sustainability. So we'll hear from the panelists in a little bit, but we're going to jump right into the pitches in order to stay on time. So who are we hearing from first? Brian?
I believe Aqua Metals.
Awesome. So Judd Merrill, CFO from Aqua Metals, will be pitching. Judd, you there?
Hey, it's actually Steve Cotton pitching today.
Oh, Steve's going to be pitching. Is Steve on the line?
I am. Can you guys see me? It's kind of
you're also labeled as Judd. Oh, that's twice as confusing.
That's why you said Judd. Okay.
Right.
Great. So you want me to get started?
Yeah, the floor is yours, and we'll start with the 5 minutes timing now.
Okay, great. So thanks, everybody. I see a couple familiar faces and some new ones, so I'll kind of speak to kind of the latest news, but have a baseline. So what Aqua Metals does is both lead acid battery recycling and lithium battery recycling, and we're leading revolution in the way that we do it through an innovative and novel process called aqua refining, and I'll tell you more about it. Next slide. That's our safe harbor. Okay, there you go. Here's our mission statement, and that is to provide sustainable metal recycling for materials that are strategic to energy storage applications. So our aqua refining technology takes the battery materials and returns raw materials right into the manufacturing supply chain in a clean way and in an economical way. And the goal really here is to reduce the reliance on mining to meet demand, particularly as we see the rapid growth in lithium-ion batteries coming online literally by the day. So next slide. So clean metals recycling is really the key to our future. Why would we transition from fossil fuels to a lithium-powered world and move the problem of pollution and emissions and not solve global climate change? If you look at the DOE and US Secretary of Energy's quotes there, you'll see that it's all about using air, water, and clean energy as inputs. Our technology, aqua refining, is unique in that it uses the electron, which is the only renewable resource, versus fire or chemicals as the reagent to recover the minerals. Next slide. So the only technologies that's really aligned with that vision is AquaRefining for lead and for lithium. It's a room temperature, closed loop, fundamentally non-pollutive process. We've de-risked and commercially proven the lead technology and have started with our first licensee for that technology with our business model. And it's cleaner, more cost-efficient recovery of a recycling process that produces a really high quality product in metal form, which is unique in particular as we expand to lithium recycling, and you can see the elemental descriptions there. We actually make cobalt in metal form, nickel in metal form, copper in metal form, and lithium in the form of lithium hydroxide, which I'll show you. We've got quite a portfolio of patents to protect our technologies throughout the world as well. Next slide. This is our innovation milestones. I won't read all this to you, but net is we have about $250 million invested, and that is in getting the AquaRefining technologies to commercialize the lead and getting through the initial phases of TRL reduction for the lithium. In August of this year, we plan on having an operational test pilot system for our first lithium recycling technology, AquaRefining for lithium, and by early next year, we expect to have potentially our first full-scale deployment for AquaRefining for lithium batteries. You'll see that we're listed on NASDAQ as a public company since 2014. Next slide. So lithium ion is really powering the new energy era, and we have to make sure that we do this with a clean source of power for not only the vehicles and energy storage systems that are associated with this energy storage and energy transition, but we also have to make sure that the closed loop is clean as well. Next slide. This is a list of some of the market drivers. There's more than 15 million tons of lithium batteries that are expected to retire just between now and the end of the decade. And if you look at basically every major car manufacturer, they've already announced their intention to stop research and development on internal combustion engines and make a full transition to an electrified fleet as early as the end of the decade. Some of them are already pure EV manufacturers, of course, and the ones that are transitioning would be transitioning within by the end of the decade or very shortly thereafter. And then if you look at the regulation side from the EU and the US, you can see obviously that there's that drive to reach net zero emissions, and corporations are going ahead of that timeline, and they want to make sure that their produced and used materials go into a net zero emissions recycling closed loop. Next step, slide. This is the difference between today's methodology, smelting that you'll see at the top, which is the only way that only 5% of lithium ion batteries are recycled today. You guys may not realize it, but 95% of lithium ion batteries end up in the landfill. And so the smelting process
30 seconds.
Takes care of 5% is something that effectively creates a high environmental impact and low recovery. There's standard hydrometallurgical processes which use massive amounts of one-time use chemicals that create massive waste streams, 200 times the chemicals that AquaRefining uses by making high purity metals ultimately, which is a low risk to go from high purity metals to battery precursors. Next slide. This is a summary here of expected advantages of our AquaRefining technology. It's cheaper. We expect to operate below the cost factors of anyone else that's operating out there or planning to operate. We make the highest quality products with a very high value range. Our business model is today as an enabler, but we also have the optionality to get into joint ventures and licensing through those joint ventures, or an actual direct joint venture with a direct investment from Aqua Metals, as well as being a recycler ourselves, which we've done before. And all of that with the best worker safety and the lowest environmental impact. What we're really looking for on an ongoing basis is grants for the research and development side, which we're very actively working on. And we're also looking for grants associated with the infrastructure bill and the Defense Production Act to get critical minerals production here in the US. You'll note if you look at any map that shows critical minerals production of nickel and cobalt and things, none of them are in North America. And in a matter of months, we will be probably the first producer of metal forms of those critical minerals with our pilot line. So with that, I'll go to questions and answers.
Awesome. We'll do a formal round with the panelists in just another pitch or two, but we'll start off with Hanko with his question.
Right. Actually, I know you about your solution. Actually, I've seen it before. It's a great solution. The questions that I have is that, I mean, first of all, seems like you're making some progress. Congratulations to that. Okay. And just specific question about the carbon credit side of it. The carbon CDM, carbon development mechanism and things. Have you filed or get a certification from in like UNF CCC in that respect to kind of what kind of impact you are making better to the environment? Because I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a key area for us, and we're embarking right now, as a matter of fact, on life cycle analysis. We'll get an LCA, and also third-party validation of our environmental proclamations in terms of our technology. We know that we will fare very well because our process runs on electricity. And as long as you can get a PPA or a virtual power purchase agreement, like the data center operators do, that operate 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt facilities, our facilities could be a high energy use, but not that much. So we know that we can get those VPPAs. And effectively, if you've got renewable electrons as the reagent powering your process with very little waste streams, your carbon footprint can be practically zero. And we think we're the only technology that can truly be net zero. And that's going to be, I think, highly valuable to this industry.
Right. Agreed. Actually, also you're targeting, those 95% lithium waiting to be recycled or landfilled. So perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
You. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So thanks.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Pete, do you have a question?
I do. Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you. Pete Shork. I'm with Broadscale Group, and thank you for this presentation. So one of the things we think critically about at Broadscale Group is commercial partnerships. I'd love to hear a little bit more about who your go-to-market partners have been to date. I know there was a legacy kind of lead product, and now for lithium ion, and where you're hoping to do development on that front, on the BD front, as you continue to go to market.
Yeah, so starting with the lead, we've commercialized, and it's on its third generation, which we call an aqualizer. And we're in the midst of getting to the deployment in a site in Taiwan. And that is with a company called Acme Metal that has great relationships, multi-generational, with the largest APAC battery manufacturers that have global brands that export batteries globally. And they're very interested in the technology for its environmental impact, et cetera, and the ultimate ability to get a closed loop in the Asia-Pac region that is a clean closed loop. Those same battery companies are obviously interested in lithium. And so when you start talking to an energy storage company anymore, they're in lead and going into lithium themselves as well. So that is a good foothold for us to help with the business development efforts, not only for the lead, but for the lithium side of things as well. We also have a pretty robust sales funnel. Our AquaRefining for lead fits very well with greenfield builds because it doesn't disrupt an existing manufacturing process. Fortunately for lithium, it's all greenfield builds because the only way that the 5% of lithium batteries are recycled a day is through smelting. So those smelting operators are companies like Glencore and Umicore you might have could come across, and they can't smelt any longer. The European Union has regulated that, and they have a timeline to find other ways to extract those minerals from the batteries. We think that they could be great partners of ours, or at a minimum, just a commercial relationship where we're buying black mass off of them, or buying black mass from other black mass producers and making the minerals and being really the world's leading black mass processor. So we can license it, we can partner. We also have an investment in a company called Linico that actually purchased our AquaRefinery, which is a 140,000 square foot facility in Tahoe Reno Industrial Center down the street from the Tesla Gigafactory right there. And Linico stands for lithium, nickel, cobalt, and Aqua Metals has agreed for Aqua Metals to enable Linico to take from the black mass to the end minerals for their development. They intend to get to a 100,000 ton per year of spent lithium ion batteries facility, which would make it the largest recycling gigafactory in the world, utilizing Aqua Metals technology as an enabler. But that doesn't preclude us from joint venture partnerships with cell manufacturers, automobile manufacturers, being our own recycler in other facilities and locations throughout the world.
Thanks. That's great detail. Obviously, there's a lot of potential go-to-market approaches, which is exactly why I asked the question. I love your answer, and would love to continue the conversation offline.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do one more pitch and then we'll introduce the panel. So thank you, Steve. By the way, I renamed, that's Steve Cotton. That wasn't Judd. Anybody was confused? Steve Cotton.
Good job. Thanks.
And we're going to be hearing now from Strata Sustainability, and pitching is Tim Hodge, who is CEO.
Hey, good day, everybody. How do you do? My name is Tim Hodge. I'm the CEO of Strata Sustainability, and thank you for the time, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Strata is an environmental services company. We focus primarily on the environmental business and a large focus on solid waste and solid waste management. Our team's got 150 plus years of collective experience in the space. Over time, we have been involved in a lot of different projects, from recycling to beneficial reuse of contaminated sites to open dump closure to a broad range of material management processes. We have developed recently, we're very proud to be actively rolling out now a new company we call ResortCo. And it is a service feature where it is a bespoke, tailored environmental solution for private remote entities that don't have access to typical solid waste management solutions. Our focus and a lot of our background has been around the Caribbean. So in places that don't have any proper landfills, recycling centers, e-waste management, hazardous waste management, we have developed this capacity and this service to help accommodate for that. Next slide, please. So fundamentally, what we're trying to do is create a turnkey solution, a true A to Z solution, as we see a very good and very growing imperative to really manage ESG issues, solid waste issues, environmental issues. We see a lot of kind of short-term solutions. What we've tried to create is a full-blown, all-encompassing 360-degree permanent sustainable solution. And when we say sustainable, we mean both in the green and ecological sense, but also in an operational sense, something that works and something that works long-term. Our systems have a huge impact on reducing carbon footprint at facilities and sites. We convert liabilities into assets in the form of reusable commodities on site and available for the recycling markets. We've got a very deep and very particular focus on safety for clients and staff and administrative stakeholders throughout the whole operation. This creates a real sustainable backbone for handling these materials. And ultimately, bottom line, from day one, we can go zero export to landfill for solid waste. And soon, 6, 12, 18 months is a rough time frame. We can bring facilities down to true zero waste programs. Next slide, please. So this is what the facility looks like. We want to turn things on its head. At most of the resorts and a lot of the facilities we see, somewhere in the back of the house, sort of under the rug, there is typically kind of a dirty old garbage can where stuff gets thrown in. That garbage can gets hauled down the road by a local garbage hauler and often, unfortunately, gets thrown just on the ground, goes into an open dump. So our vision is something entirely different. That would be a client-facing facility where people and kids and students can come and see and watch compost get made, watch recycling get done, watch this waste get managed in a good, smart, sustainable way. Next slide, please. This facility is small, tight, clean. This is based on many, many years of our experience, and in particular, not as consultants or not as vendors or not as kind of designers, but as actual operators. We pride ourselves on being the ones that really get our hands dirty and get our boots dirty and actually handle the waste itself. So these are functional, reliant systems and redundant systems that we know and we can vouch for and comply with. This facility, while small, can handle now currently 140 different waste streams. So everything from biosolids to recyclables to organic waste, hazardous waste, and sort of anything that can come, we can handle and accommodate at this plant. Next slide, please. The site is self-reliant. It is off-grid, generates its own power, its own energy. We are able to take, and particularly here in Caribbean and a lot of the resort environments, a lot of cooking oil is used in the process. We can convert that cooking oil to biodiesel to help power our rolling stock. We convert to electric everywhere we can, and with battery-supported facilities, we can create a net zero facility. And ultimately, we seek to use this as a cornerstone for renewable powers as well, coming out of the plant itself in the form of biodiesel and some additional or surplus solar power we can generate as part of the site conditions. What we have done special about this is create a very different approach. The traditional recycling methodologies really don't work in remote locations, and particularly kind of at the back end of the logistics chain. So what might work in downtown Miami does not work on Eleuthera in the Bahamas. And so we are talking about micro scales, very expensive, very difficult to get to market environments. So we have created a different methodology where we're doing a great deal of site source separation, source processing, kind of preliminary management of the material prior to flowing it into the traditional recycling market and recycle kind of logistics chain. Next slide, please. In associated with this, in particular with this discussion today, one thing that has come from our conversations and our development of this is seeing how we want to really move beyond kind of the traditional model of just dealing with solid waste or getting rid of solid waste. What we're really trying to do is create really sustainability as a service and create an all-encompassing sustainability program. Related to that very quickly becomes energy, water, solid waste, all these things kind of overlap in a very interesting way as we start to draw that circle larger. The traditional model of just throwing stuff in a box and having a distributor down the road, we think is archaic and is soon to change. And we see this as a really a new mousetrap, a different approach to really expedite that cycle and start to do that more quickly. Next slide, please.
Hi, Tim, you
So-
have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. We're excited about this because we know it works. This is stuff that we have done, we've done ourselves, we've put our hands on it, and we are reliant for it. The market is unfortunately huge. 70% of the world's garbage currently goes into open dumps. One of the biggest and most underserved markets are remote locations. So across a broad spectrum of sites and clients, we think we've got a high utility level and unfortunately very, very broad market for this. And we are keen to start to expand our footprint and start to really prove out and verify our model and this application as it goes. We are different and we are taking a very decentralized approach to this issue. Traditional methodology has always been sort of large centralized landfills and kind of traditional hauling networks and back and forth logistics. This is a very different conceptual approach in that we are doing very serious and intensive site-specific decentralized source separation and processing prior to this material moving on to the next stage. Next slide, please. We have a lot of different capacities for this. I think I've mentioned these, but some really interesting side effects, really starting to boost soil health and carbon sequestration, starting to create true circular economics on site. That's kind of bandied about that there is value in waste. We as garbage guys rarely sort of see that, but we feel like this is a place where we really can start to convert that and make that happen, particularly given the circumstances and the demands of these remote waste shed locations. We approach this differently too, in that we're not just selling a tool, but we're selling a service. Our approach is to provide the service. This is design, build, operate, finance, and where we can come into a situation, really cure, convert, and start to create a real long-term positive change for clients and entities. Next slide, please. So what we're looking for is partners, and we say that very openly. We're looking for strategic partners in the shape of vendors, investors, grants, applications, and also people to work with us. We pride ourselves in being good partners and really being able to see and identify good value add resources and tools that can start to complement our program. And so we're open and very amenable to that. And the basis for our success in this has been based on I think, being able to partner well with other folks and other entities. Next slide, please.
We're gonna have to call it here. Just so perfect timing too.
Okay. Okay, great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time and a chance to talk about us a little bit.
Absolutely. Okay, we got 4 questions across the board. I think Yoav, Olivier, Hanko, and Ron. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. A great presentation. I think a great idea. Have you proved the ROI on the investment in this facility?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really been interesting. I'll be honest about this. When we first developed this, we thought the driver was going to be sort of guilt, for lack of a better term. You know, a lot of these entities are these very beautiful, pristine places, and their garbage is getting thrown on the ground, and they either put a match to it or it washes back in the sea or back in the ocean. So the impetus was to really get it together and just do something better. But what we have done is we've started to look at this, in particular these very soil-poor environments. As we're able to take waste, and we've got a very large focus on organic waste, is we can convert that to soil and compost and mulch and start to put that back into the ground, start to improve the landscaping, start to reduce the need for extremely expensive RO-generated irrigation water. We start to look at that. We start to look at avoided costs. We start to look at avoided hauls and everything. Overall, we're seeing some very compelling ROI. It can be quite site-specific, but we are seeing ROI returns for the clients in the range of 2.5 to 4.5 years.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. Great idea. Vision, I totally buy it, but my question would like, how would you basically define the different milestone in order to reach the vision? Because at first it looks like, and it's pre-condensate, so you have within this area, you have a lot of various, let's say, expertise you could have. So you have like a bit the charger there, you have maybe the solar panel, maybe you need some expert to find the right place to discuss with government, military, and etc. So how would you tackle this approach to define exactly the step-by-step to reach the vision?
Well, so we're in half a dozen different, kind of second and third round conversations right now. So we've had really nice kind of market feedback, and our aim is by the end of this year is to have 3 to 5 projects under contract up and running. In terms of the bits and pieces and the tools, we have been very careful to only select sort of proven, verified things. There is nothing in particular about this that is novel. We haven't. What is novel about this, and what we are applying for patent for on this, is the way the whole system is bundled, and also how the material stream works, kind of coming through the, from the full cycle, from the front end all the way out to the back end and final disposition. So the things that we're using are proven. We've got proven solar partners, we've got proven fast charger partners, we've got proven biodiesel partners, all of that. So we feel very comfortable in how all those pieces fit together. The system is also modular. So to the extent, it is not all integrated. If one thing works or something else works further, we were able to kind of break that up and verify and adapt for site-specific conditions and roll it out in a very tailored, appropriate way for that particular client situation.
Okay, that's clear. Maybe one additional question. How do you find the area then? Well, so you have contact already with government, you look at private area where you discuss with commercial people, or how would you tackle it? Because from my experience, for instance, finding area to place commercial buildings or commercial like business, it's kind of challenging. It always takes time. And
so around growth, we are going to break these up into discrete business units. And I mean, relatively discrete. We're a small company, but we will have a different approach, say, to the military clients than we will with commercial clients. And then within that, our rough buckets, number one is kind of luxury. In our market here in the Caribbean, those are the clients that tend to have the most, inclination and money for this. Mm-hmm. Number two, the cruise ship terminals have been very responsive to this, and someone we've discussed with us, been a kind of another stripe of client. And then we think the military and the government applications, so military sites, national parks, marine reserves, we think those are another kind of category of clients. So we'll tune the marketing and branding and growth around, developed and tailored for each one of those things.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Tim, I guess my turn here. Han Ko from Useco Group, great presentation. Actually, I'm particularly interested in your solution because I'm an investor. We're working with a few companies in basically net zero space, and I mentioned it earlier. But number one, first question that I have is that you have data on your solution in terms of how much of carbon footprint you're reducing. In terms of those the CDM again for UNFSCCC industry, and then also basically net zero, right? So that's the one question. And then a second question is that are you interested in collaborating in other industries? I think you mentioned that already, actually, but those two things I was going to touch base with you.
For sure. The carbon analysis can be challenging, and again, is quite site specific, but we're very intensively data driven. So right. As we're able to gather that, yes, we can confirm that very much. And so our throughput and our carbon generation rates and everything else, all the above, we can do that. And that's a live model that we develop and work with clients as we go. And we do that very frequently at our other kind of larger scale landfill work and the other projects we're engaged in. And then pardon me, remind me on the second question.
The second question is the industry collaboration.
Oh, yes.
I think you mentioned that. You already said that, actually. So
yeah. So the industry, the one place I think we should go next is manufacturing. With the zero waste mandate for a lot of those entities, the manufacturing is fairly easy for us. They can be different waste streams, but they generally tend to be fairly homogeneous. So different than like the landfill where we could get hundreds of different materials a day. At a manufacturing plant, particularly, have a fairly limited stream. So we might have to adapt and tweak a little bit, but our application works very, very well for that.
Gotcha. Actually, one of the companies that I currently work with has a business model that actually reduced the size of carbon footprint in a certain way. So maybe perhaps we'll talk about this later here. Okay, thank you.
Great.
I think you can. You guys can. Your guys' solution can match pretty well. That's what I'm saying. So thank you.
Great. Appreciate that.
I think it's my time to jump in, and thank you, Tim, for taking the time to present. We really appreciate it. I do want to follow up on one of the previous questions and get a little deeper into it, but are you guys acquiring the land itself, or are you receiving land leases from the municipalities, the facilities you're working with? Are they providing you the space? Because obviously you're taking a small amount of room, so I was just curious how that's working, or is it a case by case depending on the location?
No, I mean, the intent would be we would be under a lease, or we would be under some kind of sublet. And we typically, the site itself is very mobile, and a lot of the stuff in our build design for it is very easy. So we actually could, move quite quickly in something like a military application. We meant for it to be, mobile and movable. And we don't really have a vision of like owning property, owning land. We would be there at the service as a service provider to the client and entity. So we'd be on part of their property, some part of piece of their real estate at some place, and it would be dedicated, tailored to them as well. So we don't really have, we're either working for them in there or we're not. So that's, I think, pretty easy on the real estate side.
Perfect. And a quick follow-up, are you also hiring and training individuals from the different locations that you're placing it, or are you bringing in your experts?
So we'll bring in one expert each time, at least a minimum of one, but then a very high reliance on local team and staffing. We've done that very successfully in the past, but our kind of pyramid of training and engagement is a very critical part of the whole thing, where we have a growing pool of folks that are trained and experienced on running the plant and equipment, and they would move on, kind of seed from the first to the next to the next.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, last question from Robert.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for the presentation. Quick question on, you'd mentioned 140 different waste streams you guys could process. Curious about the sorting and processing systems you guys have within the facility, or if that's being done outside of the facility, such as do your clients need to do more work on their end as far as sorting different waste streams? And then a follow-up would be curious on what kind of waste streams are you guys unable to handle?
Okay. We keep it very simple, very clean. And for the client side, we only ask for a 2 or 3 bin system, meaning around the site, around their facilities, their kitchen or their restaurant or their office, 2 to 3 bins. Hopefully at some point we bring them to just either compostable or recycling bin. But for starters, it'll be compostable, recycling, and solid or garbage MSW bin. And so on the front end, we find compliance is very difficult. So we try to keep it simple. We don't like kind of the 6 bin systems or anything too complicated like that. So we keep that very simple. Our system is based on our very highly intensive sorting. So if they screw up everything, if they do everything is mixed, they bring it to us. We do a floor sort, number 1, and then we do a table sort, number 2. And everything is very highly manual, given we're dealing with very small volumes. And so here, for instance, at the Nassau landfill run, we're taking in 650 to 750 trucks a day. At even the largest resorts we have found, they are talking about maybe 11 to 12 truckloads a day. So the sense of scale is very, very different. The way we've developed the business model and the engagement is one where we have included the price and the cost and the expense of that upfront labor. And when I mentioned the fact that we're doing something very different, which is this very high, very intensive source separation and source processing, that's what I mean. We very manually get into it and deal with it, pull it apart, parse it apart in the best way we can. So a lot of that stuff is done up front. That allows us to kind of leapfrog to the front of the value chain. It also allows us to do a big, huge amount of volume reduction. And we can make, we just physically make things much smaller and also get things into the appropriate containers. That leads to your last question, is what we can't handle. There's a lot of things we can't handle, like hazardous waste, but what we can do and what we do as part of the service is we appropriately package that material. So if they have lithium ion batteries, if they have haz waste, if they have solvents that go bad, if they have pool cleaner that goes bad, all of that stuff, we don't have a particular application for that, but we have partners that can take it, and we have containers that safely and in conformity with international regs and standards, we can ship that stuff to market and get it where it needs to go to be properly managed.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. That's Tim Hodge from Strata Sustainability. We're moving on to our next pitch, but we're going to be hearing from Luca Ferrari from S2 NRG. Just before Luca pitches, we just want to hear quickly a word or two, a couple sentences about each of our panelists. We'll do a quick round. Pete, maybe you can start us off.
Thanks, Josh. Hey, everyone. Great to be here. Great pitches so far. I'm Pete Shork. I'm with Broadscale Group. We operate a family office network and corporate network investing in climate and sustainable solutions. I've spent about 10 years advising and investing in sustainable businesses. It's great to be here. Great pitches so far, and look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Olivier, we had also the fortune of having Olivier on the previous panel, but let's just hear quickly from you as well.
Yeah, so Olivier Demont from Kino Finance. At Kino Finance, we basically help deep tech startups to accelerate their growth with tailor-made venture leasing solutions. We participate in equity rounds on occasion, so please reach out if you want to have more information. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. Han Ko?
Yes, Han Ko, use Echo Group. We're a venture capital company on global stage. We're based out of USA, but we do have actually 2 offices in Seoul, South Korea. So we closely work with the Asian market actually, and also with some European market as well. We do have a keen interest in deep tech space, and this the program that Josh and everyone put together is a great program. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Robert?
Hi, Robert Ethier with Impact Science Ventures. We're a deep tech venture fund focused on commercializing scientific breakthroughs in critical industries. Think in energy, manufacturing, materials, electronics, semiconductors. But the real focus is scientific breakthroughs.
Awesome. Happy to have you with us. Hamza?
Yeah, so I'm Hamza with UM6P Ventures. We are an early stage capital fund. We are the investment arm of UM6P, which is one of the top tier universities in Africa. We're also backed by one of the largest companies in phosphate rock mining and the fertilizer producing. We are mainly focused on deep tech and hard tech startups, mainly in agrobioscience like biotech, health tech, and energy. And we are geography agnostic, and we have like a couple of offices in Europe and the US.
Awesome. Awesome. Yoav?
Yes, hi everyone. Yoav Weiser from Next Gear Ventures, a venture fund out of Israel. We're focused on early stage investing in mobility, and one of the segments we're focused on in recent years is around energy, starting from electrification, alternative energy, etc. So if you have any great idea in this field, feel free to contact me. I sent my email in the chat.
Thank you. Marshall?
Hi, I'm Marshall Wachowski from the Defense Innovation Unit. We're working to accelerate the adoption of technology into the military, and what that looks like is finding military partners with problems and finding companies that have a product that the military can purchase that product as a customer. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ron?
How's it going, everybody? Ron Krugo. I'm the managing partner over at Equiturn Business Solutions and Charged Ventures. I'm here in honor of Charged Ventures. We're the investment arm of Equiturn. We focus on tech startups, early stage to Series A, and we do love to identify sustainability specific tech startups throughout our investments.
Awesome. Lastly, but not least, Ed Laverdure.
Hi, Ed Laverdure, InventApp Solutions. I help companies with great tech make connections with government partners. Also Deputy Director of Education for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics for Region 4, which is Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and New Mexico. And I have senior leadership experience with both defense energy and fair basing.
Awesome. So that's our panel. Thank you everybody for joining us. And we got 2 more pitches left in this event. By the way, the panel is welcome to also stay on for the last session. We're going to be hearing from 5 companies. So without further ado, Luca, you're up whenever you're ready. Team for S2 NRG is Luca Ferrari.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Luca Ferrari, and today I'm here to present S2 Energy and its integrated hybrid energy solution. So next slide, please. So as you know, right now, industrial companies are trying to reduce their energy consumption and their objective is to reach carbon neutrality in the next 20 to 30 years. But at the moment, 50% of all the energy used in a process is wasted. This is represent millions of megawatt hours and millions of dollars related to those megawatt hours. So our solution in S2 Energy try to find pragmatic way to address these needs. So next slide, please. So what we came up with, we call it industrial renewable energy, and it's a combination between an innovative business model and innovative technologies to untap these sources of energy that are wasted in very heavy and hot industries. So next slide. Our vision addressed some of the key and right now very important problem in both the industrial and the energy sector. So energy is becoming one of the major cost driver in any heavy process. Energy security in the current global environment is also key for operating an industrial asset. Environmental compliance, considering government changing in policies and so on, is becoming also key to run asset, and these aspects are also triggering global competitiveness of some of the plant for some of these international companies. Another major aspect that is currently not very looked after, both in the industrial sector and the energy sector, is the aging of these assets. So in the future, to upgrade them, it will be necessary not only to think about the product that is being made, but also about the energy that's consumed to make this product. So next slide. So in S2 Energy, what we came up with, we call it integrated hybrid energy platform. And basically we try to recover the energy currently wasted in an industrial asset and reuse that energy inside the process or in the market, monetizing it. So we came up with a sustainable business model that basically helps the company finance this project in a sustainable way off balance sheet for them. And in some of the projects we designed, we were able to recover more than 40% of the energy currently wasted. This comes with a unique configuration where we consider not only point solution, but we look at the entire factory. So we look at solutions that integrate both conventional and renewable energy technologies. And this, in some cases, we're able to increase the global competitiveness of the asset and at the same time, reduce the energy dependence of this company from the energy grid. So next slide, please. So what we did in our approach was to develop a solution that we call cascading technology. So for instance, I'm going to show you an example. We use thermal storage to buffer some of these processes, reducing the peak demand, both for heat and electricity in some cases. And at the same time, we develop a digital solution that actually maximize the return in the economics, considering the energy market in which this company operates. So this comes from the monetization of carbon offset, the reduction of peak demand, which is becoming more and more important in running an industrial asset, the improved efficiency, which reduce not only natural gas, but also electricity consumption for the same unit of product delivered. And this is proved to be like an approach that is reliable, efficient, and clean, both for the energy system and the industrial asset. So next slide. In the next slide, here is one of our projects. For instance, here we were able, starting from a painting line in an aluminum factory, we were able to liberate some of the natural gas through a waste heat recovery, and we used the natural gas reduction to run a combined heat and power plant where the electricity were used inside the factory to reduce the dependence of the plant from the electricity grid, which was not reliable in this particular country. And the heat was used at the same time to preheat some of the feedstock for some of the processes. At the same time, we overview at solar PV to cover the main building of the factory, reducing even more the reliance on the grid. So in this case, we were able to create 8.5 megawatt hours, which was more 25% of the energy consumption, and reduce natural gas consumption, keeping natural gas consumption pretty much the same for the unit of production. So next slide. So we work and we've done project with the large industrial corporation like Novelis, US Steel, Alcoa, Tata Steel, CSN, and ArcelorMittal in North America, South America, and Western Europe at the moment. And so next slide. What we are looking for is try to increase the number of projects that we can run. So we are looking for capital to increase the project. So we're looking for convertible security between $3 and $5 million and the outcomes and the monetization will come mostly from carbon offset and the energy sale and the energy savings of our industrial project. Our team, next slide, is currently formed in this case by myself, that I'm working between Bologna in Italy and Boston, Felipe Gomez, which manages the South American market, and Michel Van Onk, which is one of our investors and also helps running the European. These are some of our contact information. I'm now open for any question you may have.
Awesome. Open up the floor. Any questions for Luca? Go ahead,
Yes.
Olivia.
Yes, one quick question for me. So if I understand it correctly, you develop solution basically to reduce the carbon footprint from your customer, the company. So once you have identified the pinpoints where you can improve this footprint, how do you implement it per se? So do you have like third-party suppliers for typical, I don't know, hardware devices of software and etc. Or how does it work once?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Appreciate it. So basically, what every plant is different across the world. So one solution may work from one particular industrial plant, but may not work from the other. Considering also the market they operate. So sometimes natural gas is very expensive. Sometimes natural gas is very inexpensive. So you need to find the right solution. And in market, we work with a local supplier of technology. We develop with software companies the integrated platform that could basically optimize the integration with the market, the energy market. And during the development of the market itself, we monetize it through the sales of the energy in the market, so selling electricity or increasing the savings for the company, or considering also, for instance, in Europe, we have the emission trading system. So carbon offset is also important in some market, but we usually work with a local supplier for the hardware. For instance, if for the waste heat recovery, we have like supplier that can help us with the hardware part. And we also have investors that help us in capitalize this project.
And from the implementation of the solution, from a business model perspective, do you have some margin on it, or is just additional services you bring to your clients? How it works per se?
So the business model works that basically we develop the project using third-party capital. So the company, because right now companies, they don't want to invest in energy project because it's not their core business. So the return is 8 to 12, 15 years sometimes. So we use third-party capital and share the revenue stream both with ourselves in S2 Energy. So we take a part of the revenue from the plant, return the money to the third-party capital. Of course, the project itself needs to be sustainable economically. So we are for going into the factory to develop the solution and to actually build the system. We run like all the financial model to understand if the business model is sustainable in that particular market.
Okay, clear. Thank you very much.
So the company itself, even the industrial partner, gets like either through saving in the energy or to carbon offset, gets some advantage also in our business model.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. If there are no other questions for Luca, we'll move on to our next pitch. So thank you very much, Luca Ferrari.
Great. Thank you everyone for listening.
Happy to have you. Next up, and this is going to be the last for the renewable energy pitch, is National Energy USA. Pitching is Dave Robeau, who is CEO and Chief Scientist.
Awesome. Can I get a quick comm check? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time and thank you for the invitation. My name is Dave Robeau. I'm the founder and chief scientist for National Energy. I've spent about 20 years as an environmental scientist. Most of my career has been with the Department of Defense. As a company, we extract value out of everyday garbage. My wife likes to say that I have an unhealthy relationship with garbage. A lot of my experience comes from the Department of Defense. Next slide, please. where our unit at Air Force Special Operations Command was tasked with solving this issue, which are in forward operating bases where we operate burn pits, or at least used to. This was just a really, really bad way of getting rid of garbage. As the de facto garbologist for the Air Force, this was our job, tackle it. So we built a plasma gasification system to be able to handle this material. Click one more time, please. And what we found is the majority of the military installations were spending over $1 million a year just being able to handle the material. So we saw a market opportunity, and I left my cushy Air Force job and formed National Energy. Next slide, please. Really to be able to leverage a lot of these advanced technologies to be able to solve these environmental challenges. First and foremost for the Department of Defense, because we had such deep insight into this market, really understood that customer. Spent half of my career working with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Air Force, and worked with big SAIC, big engineering firms. So I really understood this marketplace and wanted to have an impact. Next slide, please. The Department of Defense, biggest user of energy. I think we all know that. A big energy footprint. Right now, the focus is around energy resiliency and being able to deliver energy to the warfighter while simultaneously reducing pollution. So click one more time, please. So what we've done is we've developed a really elegant solution that delivers that resiliency, diverts material from the landfill while simultaneously reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So next slide, please. We are a very forward-looking company. So rather than relying on unpredictable labor, we're leveraging the AI, machine learning, robotic technology to be able to sort through material that's coming off of a conveyor belt. Humans are really bad at sorting material by hand. It's a very slow, labor-intensive, dangerous work environment, and it's expensive. Robots are really good at it. This is a great application for AI-powered robots. Click one more time, please. And the robots are highly efficient. So when we're extracting this material, we're creating really valuable supply chains to be able to onshore some of the domestic products by being able to bring these raw materials back into the circular economy. And ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to the biogenic portion of the waste stream after we pull out these recyclables. Next slide. And the reason we're so passionate about biomass is because when you look at the renewable energy sources that are out there, there's only a handful that can actually meet baseload power. Otherwise, you have to bring in expensive battery technologies because you can't run a mission based on whatever the weather's doing. Lots of variabilities with that technology. So with biomass, we're able to produce a thermal load, electricity, renewable natural gas, or even a sustainable aviation fuel. Next slide, please. So we have the experience in building the power generation to be able to take this biogenic material and produce, you'll click 3 times here, to produce different feedstocks or different outputs depending on what the customer is looking for. One more time, please. And even sustainable aviation fuel. So next slide. So we're really interested in helping reduce that carbon intensity for our customers, and click one more time. And biomass is the only way to get to a negative carbon intensity score. So next slide, please. We have a tremendous amount of traction. We've actually worked with third-party companies, obviously tested our fuel with EPA. Super excited that we got our first contract with AFWERX last year under an SBIR. Next slide, please. And really generating revenue through our forecast as we close projects. Next slide, please. I could talk trash for hours, and I know I only got 5 minutes. So we do right now have an open seed round where we are raising $1 million. We want to build out our MVP. I think you're going to click twice here, Brian. And looking to develop this technology for the Air Force. So next slide. So this is our team. We've put together some awesome subject matter experts, people that are just, garbage nerds like me, really interested in making an impact. And then click one more time. At this point, as we say in the garbage business, I'm at your disposal. So if you have any questions for me, happy to take them. Otherwise, I got one last slide with my contact information. And that's it. That's all. That's what I got for you.
I love it. I love it. Talking trash and at your disposal. Go ahead, Olivier.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. Good presentation. One question. I don't really comprehend what would be the product at the end, because you basically, first of all, describe the robotic solution, right, with the software and the kind of cobot that will identify the waste and then to basically recycle them. And then after we are talking about this kind of container where you have various solutions inside. So how do you really approach this?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So the robotic front end is really designed to pull out the recyclables that have value in the circular economy. Ultimately, what we're trying to get to is that biogenic portion. And then depending on the solution, in other words, what the customer is looking for, we could implement an updraft gasifier. If the customer wants to produce electricity, we can take this same material, put it into an anaerobic digester. If the customer is more interested in a renewable natural gas, or we can put fuel cell technologies in on the back end. So it gives us that flexibility depending on what the customer is looking for. In the case of the Air Force, there's a lot of interest around energy resiliency. So we would package a gasifier unit to be able to convert this material into clean renewable energy.
Okay, and maybe then one follow-up question from the software side is pretty clear. From the hardware side, do you have would you look at suppliers and different solution and then basically wrap it up together and provide them to your clients, or are you expecting to, or do you expect to develop this on your own? So what's a bit your strategy here from the hardware side?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that question. So we enter into feedstock contracts with our customer. So the customer may come to us and say, hey, we have this waste stream. We're gonna provide it to you under a long-term contract. And then on the back end, we're looking for this material. So if it's electricity, as an example. So we bring what we call a DBOOM model. So we design, build, own, operate, and maintain these facilities over the contractual period of time for that contract. So the customer doesn't lay out any money, actually ends up saving a little bit of what they're paying for their waste processing. We're able to produce electricity for, we think about 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's pretty competitive. Especially considering the fact that it is base load power that we can produce with about 95% uptime.
Yeah, I think we should catch up, Dave. Great product and great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Hey, great presentation, actually. Love your solution there. Yep. So Dave, I know you're basically doing whole vertical, correct? Right. Your service for vertical, so including, I guess, the consulting too. I looked at your. When I saw your, I guess, Team's bio, very rich background. I really respect that. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working with a few companies in the industry. Perhaps I want to talk to you, but maybe even we could be your client. In other words, okay. So
sounds good.
Yeah, I'm an investor, but could be a client. So I want to catch up with you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Any last question? So with that, we concludes our renewable and alternative energy session. We'll just do a quick recap of who we heard from and who our panel was. So first, the panel, fantastic panel. We had Olivier, Ron, Pete. I think John actually didn't make it with us, but Hamza, Hanko, Ed Laverdue, Robert, who had to sign off a little earlier, Marshall, Andrew also was not able to come this time, and Yoav Weiser. You're encouraged and welcome to stay on for our last session. We're going to be hearing from 5 companies. We'll touch upon who that is in just a second. We heard from 4 companies in the renewable and alternative energy space: S2 NRG, Aqua Metals, National Energy USA, and Strata Sustainability. So we're going to move on to our last and final session of the evening. Well, for me, for evening, for the rest of you, afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. We're going to be hearing, the focus is going to be on power management and supporting systems, and we're going to be joined by Mark Roth from Spinnaker Venture Partners, Greg Bauer, also from Spinnaker, Ed Laverdure, Marshall Witkowski from Defense Innovation Unit, Owen Sanford from OSEA from the United States Air Force, and of course, any of our panelists that would like to stay on with us. We're going to be hearing from 5 companies: Exacom, Lithium Power Inc., Resonant Link, ChemCube, and QCore. So without further ado, we'll get started right away with the pitches so that we can stay close to being on time. I think we're pretty much on time at this point. So pitching first, we're going to be hearing from Neil Edwards, whose CEO is pitching. Neil, you want to do a quick mic check?
Sorry, I'm at a conference today, so sorry I had to come back to a hotel room. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, great, perfect.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. So QCore, what QCore does is we are a data security platform that's not hackable. And can you hear me? Okay, yeah, so we're an unhackable data security platform. We're a venture-backed company, have a pretty significant patent portfolio, offices in New York City and Manhattan and Washington, D.C., and have a number of existing government and commercial clients where we are helping them in ransomware across their systems. So just to give you a little bit of a background of the company has about 15 people today, and you know, just finishing our Series A, and so that's where we're at with the company. Problem that okay, next slide, please. Sorry, thought I was good. So, you know, the real big problem we're trying to do, and if you think about energy, you know, the whole energy sector, you know, Colonial Pipeline thought they had safe data. They had great cybersecurity systems. They had world-class enterprise, edge and cloud systems at place. And yet, you know, the dark side gang, a bunch of hackers, were able to get in through their, through their accounting systems and shut down the gas supplies to the East Coast of the United States, or $4.5 million ransom. The cost of the ransom paled in comparison to the reputation damage and to the loss of business that they experienced. The reason they experienced what it was because their data wasn't safe, and they didn't have a good enough set of cybersecurity measures in place, and that is the big problem all around the world today. Great cybersecurity systems, but yet 37% of all organizations of over 100 people get attacked 11 times, every 11 seconds, and there's a more than 50% chance that they're going to get through the firewall. And once they're through that, then you're in trouble. So next slide, please. So what we do is we stop ransomware, we stop cyber attacks, because we have literally one of the only immutable, tamper-proof storage solutions in the world, patent protected, whole portfolio of patents around it. And what happens is we have a product. It's called Zero Trust Storage, ZTS platform. It runs either as an appliance that you would install in a remote location, or in your data center, or in your cloud, or in our cloud, or we have software. What we do is we have something that if you've probably never heard of this, but in the cybersecurity world, there's a concept called write once, read many, which means that once that data is written to the disk, it can never be unwritten by someone else. You have a number of folks who have claimed to have immutable storage because they have a software solution that rides on top of the hardware. What we actually do is we have 2 versions of it, and we tamper-proof the actual disk drives, and then we actually flash the disk drives with our proprietary firmware, and then the disk drives go into either the cloud or into an appliance. And then we have a piece of AI software called Neuron, which allows for the configuration and management of that. And then it just deploys like a normal piece of storage, in whatever your data ecosystem looks like today. And what that means, Next slide, please. What that means is that when you look at, cyber criminals, and you look at the sophistication and the complexity of cyber attacks, is that really what's happened is they're industrialized. 50% of all cyber attacks come from Iran, Russia, China, North Korea. The other 50% come from very organized criminals, in India and Malaysia and other rogue countries. And what happens is that, they get around existing measures that are mostly software based, and they do one of three things. They encrypt your production. Yeah, encrypt your data, they delete your backups, then they steal your data, and that's all she wrote. So next slide. We work with National Institutes of Standards. So they've deployed us with a number of different tier 1 companies. So we're helping writing the standards inside the US government. Next slide. And next slide so you guys can read. So what we're looking for, real simple. We're looking for business partnerships. We have an open round. We're looking for investment. We also have a group that we call Q-Core Labs that we're launching around blockchains and around industrial control systems. So for folks who want to do collaborative research, we have a group that we're working on with that. So that's it. Questions?
Okay, this is Mark Roth. I have a question.
Yep.
So really interesting. Thanks for the presentation. And certainly a really key and core problem in industry across the board, right? The integrity of this data, especially as this data wants to stream from the devices. All these people want to use industrial IoT and Industry 4.0. So my question is, your technology or technical solution here being driven towards centralized data management, it seems, right? How does it stack up or how do you see it positioned with the oncoming technologies of blockchain, of the idea of high integrity blockchain data?
Well, that's a really long question, but I will tell you, distributed data, and I've been in the data industry for 30 years, and distributed data that's unsecured, and you have to always delineate between private networks and public networks. Distributed public networks, let's see, last week, 2 weeks ago, $600 million lost because the blockchain was hacked, right, of the one gaming company. So not too secure in the blockchain. We're working on that in a couple of private blockchains. When you look at industrial control systems, especially around energy and around government systems, again, it all goes back to it's either cloud, edge, node. There's a lot of data in motion. At the end of the day, people are looking for a solution where they can lock down their storage wherever it is. We don't really care. We're storage, right? So.
Okay, thanks. That was a great answer.
I'm happy to have a deeper discussion. That's a really big question.
Yeah, but I think it's really important. So it's really very important that people understand the value of what you bring within all the noise that we hear about the new, highly secure, ostensibly blockchain technology.
Yeah, the blockchain is not secure. Like, it's not. There's been billions of dollars that have been lost.
Hey, Neil, Greg Bauer, also from Spinnaker Ventures. We don't want to dominate today.
Yeah, sure.
But a couple quick questions. I apologize. I'm in a place with low bandwidth, so I couldn't see your slides. So I may ask questions that are on your slides.
Yeah.
But what's your business model? How do you make money? How do you charge for your services? What are your revenues today as a company?
So business model is very simple. It is a service. Okay. The service, is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year contract. So we do not sell 1 year. We do not sell a box and say, see you later. You sign up for a service. We think it's going to be about 3 years. Okay. 3-year average, average customer revenue. The blocks of revenue that we are looking to charge on the service are between $100,000 entry, $500,000 and $1 million annual recurring revenue. So those are the types of customers we're going after. Okay, we're not selling individual storage solutions to SMBs. No interest to us at all. So we were solving very big problems. Revenues right now are right around $1 million. Part of QCore, I was with a company called Spencer Trust Ventures. We acquired QCore many months ago, and we've added it with some other assets. And so we're building out the next generation of software, with the portfolio that we have.
So last question, are you platform agnostic?
Platform agnostic, absolutely.
Okay.
We work with anything. I was just downstairs at a Department of Defense show, and somebody said, "Can I put your storage inside my proprietary system?" Yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to license it to you. Absolutely.
Great. Very interesting solution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'm happy to ask. Yeah, and I'm happy if any of you have any. I know it's kind of a big topic. Hit me up on my email or on the presentation. Happy to have an individual conversation with you.
Owen, did you have a question?
Yeah, dealt with the blockchain and the revenue, so that's sort of answered. Definitely interested more in the blockchain aspect of it, especially with joint all-domain command and control and how you're moving information around the battle space and how to potentially leverage blockchain and cybersecurity together to make that more secure. Yeah. And then you mentioned never unwritten. So you're providing both hardware and software combined. Is there any risk going through the software side into the hardware side to then write or tamper with that? I'm just hesitant whenever anyone says never or absolute. So what kind of testing have you done to do that?
I would say this, and if DISA, we have a report, if you're cleared, that we can share with you with our cleared guy, that DISA could never ever hack into our system. Raytheon could not hack or pin test it into our system. And NIST keeps asking us to help contribute to all of their data security initiatives. And so I think those are kind of the results I would suggest. Real quick on blockchain, because I think it's a very good question. On that chart, you'll see there's a product called Force Field. We didn't have a lot of time to talk, but that is actually where we do sector level writes. So when we have a proprietary file system that goes on a whole volume, and then, for example, blockchains, transactional blockchains, we would write block. It's encrypted, with proprietary encryption, and we have our own automated key management, so it links into your systems. So it is super locked down, and then what we do for in terms of data, data kind of resilience is we actually have a mirror option. If someone wants it mirrored, then we mirror every worm disk, again. And again, this technology came out of the ATF, where they were trying to get immutable video to show in court because the bad guys were getting away, saying, "Hey, that wouldn't mean the video." And we developed storage technology that can't be hacked or can't be just disputed in court of law.
Great, thank you. Definitely interested in that aspect.
Yeah, let's talk. Love to talk.
And if you have SIP or a JWIX, whichever one is most appropriate to have those discussions, have both, just if you need it.
Yeah, just let me know. I'm happy to get our CTO. We're located in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Data Center Row. Happy to do a call. We're at the AFCEA show today, actually. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm in the DC area as well, so thank you.
Yeah, I kind of was gathering that. Yeah, we're at the AFCEA show, so we kind of divide and conquering. So yeah, so thanks so much. Just send me your info. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you. That was QCore, and presenting was Neil Edwards. So thank you, Neil. We're moving on to our next presentation. ChemCubed is going to be presenting. Daniel Slepp, who is CEO and President, is going to be talking on behalf of ChemCubed.
Great. Hi, my name is Dan Slepp. I am the CEO and co-founder of ChemCubed. Next slide, please. What I'd like to be introducing is our technology in additive manufacturing of electronics. First, I'd like to just state who we are. We're located in Stony Brook, New York, and we are a materials company supporting additive manufacturing and some 3D printing technologies. Next slide, please. These are our current key market segments. We've been around for about 7 years developing these materials, and we generally focus on electronics, printing, and additive manufacturing and electronics. You can see that there's a lot of overlap between these key market segments. So we work a lot within the military defense, and aerospace, and automotive industries specifically for this. Next slide. Over the years, we've kind of separated into 2 brand solutions, what we call our nanocube solutions and our electrojet solutions. Our nanocubed are polymers and nanocomposites that we make specifically for applications for companies, but are by far our low-hanging fruit, and what we're presenting today is our electrojet solutions, which involves multi-layer, multi-printing on digital electronics. Next slide. As you may know, printed electronics, what we're talking about is actually printing PCB boards and flexible hybrid electronics, layer upon layer, the conductive and the dielectric materials to, rather than doing a whole bunch of laminating. Next slide. Just a little indication that the market is growing exponentially in this area. It's very important for both the defense industry and commercial industries within aerospace and in automotive. Next slide. Many benefits for the printed electronics. A lot of it has to do with the sustainable impact and how quickly and cost effective it could be. And I'll go into that as well. Next slide. Just a quick indication of what additive is. Normally in PCB or electronics printing, you have to do a lot of copper etching and lamination to build a multi-layer PCB board or even a flex board on Kapton and such. In additive electronics, what we're doing is actually printing all of this right on top of a board. Next slide. As I stated, what we are is a materials company. So by far, we're driven by our materials. But we also provide printers, and we're expanding into newer printers and helping customers with their processes and applications. Next slide. Yep, keep going. As I said, our materials are the thing that distinguishes us from other companies of our size and what other companies that are doing the same thing. We have a particle-free silver conductive ink, which sinters extremely fast, so it's reliable in inkjet heads, and that is our printing operation. And to go along with it, we have numerous dielectric inks for encapsulation purposes and for insulating between layers. Next slide. And so to go along with our materials, we offer our printing systems. This one right now we have built for us, and specifically it has a 12 by 24 inch flatbed printer. It has a heating bed and a UV curing bed, and will print everything at one time as it builds the circuitry. We are expanding into newer printers. We have a 3 by 5 foot printer on deck, and we're trying to improve, do some improvements on this one as well. This printer right now sells for anywhere between 70 to 80,000 per printer. Our nearest competitor is selling printers that are smaller and not doing as much for about 450,000. So we can see we're very cost effective, and this is mainly geared for manufacturing, not the home hobbyists trying to print circuitry. Next slide. Currently, these are the applications that these are being used. These printers are being used for. We have more than 20 printers out there right now, And,
Hey, Dan, 30 seconds.
and we have many orders in-house. Next slide. In summary, we are a materials company. It's the conductive performance of our inks that we stand out in and could go into multiple printers. Next slide. And we talk about our printers and our commercial turnkey systems, and all the solutions and how we address our collaborative results. Our customers right now are people like Boeing and Automotive, Molex, and people like that. Next slide. So what we're looking for is we've got some proposals that already have been selected and funded in the Air Force Phase 2. We're looking for DoD contacts particularly in the Air Force, to resubmit some of these proposals again, since they weren't funded, but they have been selected. And at the same time, we're looking for partners and funding opportunities to expand. We need to expand our demo rooms. We need to get more printers in-house. We need to not only expand our lab slightly, but looking at expanding our business management team. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Owen Sanford with the first question.
Hey, thank you for that. Is the quote unquote secret sauce to your efforts the materials, the process of the printers, or the combination of how they're used that differentiates you? It's kind of a loaded question. Sorry about that, Dan.
No, it's actually, I would have had a lot more time to elaborate with it in a different type of presentation. But the secret sauce really is the materials. Inkjet printing and the printing technology is old, right? Everybody knows about inkjet printing. It's been around since the 70s and 80s. I've been involved in it for the last 30 years myself for materials. But what we've done is have developed reactive inks, and specific inks that are sintered and are nearly 100% silver once it's already printed. Most inks out there right now are nanocomposite based, which has a lot of fillers, and you have to build maybe 30 levels to get the same type of conductivity. They also clog heads because they have nanoparticles in them and so forth. It's hard to keep silver or metals in solution without them eventually agglomerating. But in our situation, they're on a backbone and chemically distributed. And then they go through a reactive phase when they're sintered, so they become 100% silver. That's really the gist of it. That's why we sinter so quickly, and that's why we could be in the production atmosphere as opposed to 40 minutes in the oven and so forth.
Do you have supply chain issues with the materials necessary to make your ink per se?
No, actually, at the moment we've been keeping track of our supply chain. The chemicals are mostly in the U.S. We're not bringing them in from overseas. I'm not going to say there won't be future supply chain issues, but as far as right now, we're able to keep up fairly easily and have the ability to expand quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, how do you protect your technology today?
We have a few patents right now, basically on the printing side and the application side, because we've discovered many things, along the way. But I'm going to say when you call the secret sauce, it's easy. We don't tell anybody. It's just too easy to back engineer once you put it out there in the patent area. But since we seem to be ahead of everybody else and lots of experience in the chemical side, I've learned that the best thing to do is to keep the secret sauce secret.
That's a wise decision on your part. Trade secret. How big are you today? Company.
We're
personally the company.
I've gained quite a bit of weight in COVID. We're 5 people internally. I've got to say that we have a lot of commercial partners that we work with and collaborators, but that's our issue really, is that we're looking to expand on and off. I've been up to 10 people over the last 7 years since I've started ChemCubed. People left during COVID for obvious reasons. And we're looking to expand. Internally, most of us are PhD scientists and so forth. I have some business people on board. I had partners, but when COVID came around, I took the opportunity and bought them out. So right now we're running purely on our revenue, but we've been all self-funded up to now. So there's been about almost $3 million invested.
From institutional investors, friends and family, out of pocket?
Personal owner investment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dan. Dan from ChemCubed. We're moving on to our next pitch of the day. We're going to be hearing from Resonant Link, and pitching is going to be Grayson Zuloff, who is the CEO.
Perfect. Hi, thanks so much for having us, Josh and team. Really excited to share what we're working on at Resonant Link. Resonant Link was founded in 2017 out of some research at Dartmouth College and Stanford University around a breakthrough wireless charging technology. We sat down after we had this 5-10x better academic demonstrator and said, okay, where do people really care about high performance wireless charging? Where can we really make a difference? And today, 5 years later, excited to talk about how we're bringing wireless power to these mission critical applications. If you go to the next slide here, people know that wireless power is important and it's moving toward the mainstream, but people all the way from medical devices, people like Abbott, to consumer electronics, Apple, to EV OEMs, can't deliver on the promises of wireless charging today. Abbott spent 40 years developing a product. It was Apple's first ever announced and canceled hardware product. And EV companies want it, but it's too slow, too big, and too expensive. Next slide, please. At Resonant Link, the breakthrough that we've invented is called the multi-layer self-resonant structure, or MSRS, which is a completely new way of building the coils that sit at the heart of wireless charging systems. Other people basically wrap wire in a loop, connect it to a capacitor bank, and build power electronics around it. And those systems are fundamentally limited by the coil performance on losses, on cost, on size, weight, distance, misalignment, and efficiency. We have a 5 to 10x fundamental performance gain, and we're bringing this to a number of markets where wireless power makes a huge difference for our customers. Next slide, please. On the electric vehicle side, our mission is to power fleets while they work. So we believe the highest and best use of wireless charging is in an opportunity charging context where we can move electric fleets to 24/7 uptime with charges that already exist at the short stops that are there during operation, and then enable that to keep that high uptime with a small number of vehicles and small batteries on each vehicle. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that we launched a few years ago into medical devices, again, where we're looking to make a huge difference with high performance wireless power. We've done millions of dollars in revenue there, really are the recognized leader in making these implantable devices like pacemakers, like neurostimulators, rechargeable for the next generation. And then we're launching into mobility later this year, as we'll talk about a bit more here. If you go to the next slide, people in this forklift or more broadly in the lift truck market are extremely excited about the 400 amp charger we have coming to market. I wish I could share the logos here, but pretty much they're 4 of the top 5 companies by volume, full steam ahead on wireless charging, can't hold off their executives for another year on getting this to market. And people that have, just like the story in these other markets, have been searching for wireless power for decades. If you go to the next slide, We're seeing that we're solving problems on the operator-driven forklift and lift truck market. We're solving problems in the automated lift truck market. We've got alpha cohort commitments from customers with over $2 billion in charging fleet value. And then we're seeing pull from huge third-party logistics providers and retailers such that they can lower the total cost of ownership for these fleets in their warehouses, in their factories, in the operating environments that they have millions of dollars of trucks deployed in. Next slide, please. This same charger we're bringing to the automotive sector. So we can actually use the same wireless charging transmitter plugged into the wall. And then on the vehicle side, we have one SKU that's for the lift truck market, high current, low voltage, and another SKU that is for the automotive market, high voltage, 400 volts, 800 volts, and lower current. And the charger that we're bringing to market shrinks the size of these on board from what you see on the left there, with huge onboard coils, a separate capacitor bank, huge power electronics, down to a system that's about 3 times smaller, the resonant link system on the right of the underside of that vehicle. And at the same time as shrinking it down, we have 6 times lower COGS, 4 times lower losses, and 30% faster charging. So we're working with people like Shell, like the Air Force, like NREL, and like leaders in the tier 1s and tier 2s to bring these to these Fortune 100 electric vehicle and AV companies here. Next slide, please. The company was founded on a scientific foundation with 3 PhDs on the founding team and leading the organization such that we can actually deliver on the promises of wireless power. And then we've supplemented that with leaders from Harvard Medical School, Tesla, Plug Power, Apple, GE, and beyond, so that we can really bring this to the markets that desperately need wireless power. Next slide here. We're building the world's fastest, most efficient wireless
30
chargers.
seconds.
This is going to be the perfect. This is going to be the first one in the world that's integrated at 400 amps of output current, which is 2 to 3 times faster than anything on the market today. And if you go to the next slide, our ask for the group here is that we love to partner with leading fleets that are on the bleeding edge of this power and energy world in the mobility sector. So really looking for fleets that are ready to pilot these breakthrough ultra-fast wireless chargers that we're shipping in the 4th quarter of this year. So we're looking to meet fleets, looking to know about people that want to use electric vehicles to get the jobs that they have done faster, better, and cheaper. So thanks so much for having me, and yeah, looking forward to some questions.
Go ahead.
So these are already built and ready to be shipped, or they're not built yet? It's just basically in the lab kind of stuff.
Yeah, so in medical and consumer electronics, we have products with customers that are going to FDA approval, have been through animal studies. For our mobility chargers, the coils are done and customers are playing with those, and the chargers are coming out in Q4. So we're still finalizing that.
How ruggedized can you, ruggedization and size of the potential charging platforms, whatever it looks like for your mobility fleet, what would that look like? Or what are you thinking it's going to look like?
They've got to be highly rugged, right? The beauty of wireless charging is that there's no moving parts. It's fully sealed. It's all solid state. So we've got to deliver on that promise. IP67, super rugged onboard units, and then offboard units that have drive over capabilities, all of that. So it's got to be rugged. It's got to be tough because we're purposefully operating in these super demanding environments.
You know, last question, what do we think one of these things is going to cost at the end of the day? Ballpark.
Yeah, so for the lift truck chargers, we're targeting price parity with the wired chargers in that sector. So it depends on the power level, but most of those are sold in that $3,000 to $8,000 range today. And we're going to be at price parity at volume with the wired chargers at the same power levels there.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
So,
Thanks,
so how much investment do you think you're going to need? Are you going to put these into manufacture yourself, or are you going to co-manufacture? Are you going to license the design and basically license the manufacture of the? What's the business model for that go-to-market?
So in lift trucks, we're selling complete chargers with service and maintenance, and looking to partner there. So it's going to be a CM model. In the automotive sector, we're bringing coils through our tier 2 partner, complete systems through our tier 1 partners. And so the business model there is more on the licensing side.
Okay, thanks.
What kind of cost do you think this will add to an electric vehicle? Not a lift truck, but automobile. I know it varies. But let's just take a conventional passenger automobile.
Yeah, so for electric vehicles, what we hear from OEMs is that they need a sale price in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. That's got to be what they're selling it as an option. So that means you need a COGS in the $500 to $1,000 range, and basically you just can't hit that with conventional technologies, which is why we don't see those today, and that's something that our technology unlocks.
Right. Thank you. Very interesting, Grayson.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Grayson. That's Grayson is Zula from Resonant Link.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us.
All right. Up next is Lithium Power. And pitching is Stan Chen, who is Business Development Officer for Lithium Power. Stan, you there?
Yep. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for being here. As Josh mentioned, my name is Stan. I am the Business Development Manager here at Lithium Power. Next slide, please. So why are we here and why do we do what we do? Well, there is a need for safe and reliable battery solutions. People want to know that their golf carts, forklifts, RVs, security systems, solar energy storage, and other applications have the power required to operate when they need them to. Not only that, they want to be able to increase their energy output and capacity by scaling up. Users want their systems to be operating at peak performance, whether in below freezing temperatures, harsh environments, or be able to handle shock and vibrations in traction applications. People want to know exactly how much power is available, the health of the batteries, and to manage the protection parameters and operating conditions. Next slide. Our goal is to offer exactly that. We want to highly integrate our customizable and programmable solutions to various applications that can utilize all these smart features. A big part of our business is lead acid replacement. There is a huge lead acid market which has existed for over a century. We want to take our relatively new lithium batteries and directly drop in replace these lead acid batteries. Lithium batteries offer numerous advantages, such as having 6 to 10 times the cycle life, being less than half the weight, more usable capacity, and they even come at a lower cost per cycle. Next page. At Lithium Power, we select suitable cells for certain applications based on their unique characteristics. We offer a robust mechanical design, custom tooling, so our IP-rated batteries can fit into unique battery compartments. We also have the ability to take these custom designed battery packs and achieve various certifications, such as UL, IEC, and UN. These certifications put battery packs through tests such as shock and vibration, drop test, puncture, impact, short circuit, and more. Our software protection algorithms are also reviewed in detail, so we know the batteries are safe. Next slide. We want to provide more than just safe solutions. We want to stand out from the competition. Rather than source third-party battery management systems like most battery suppliers, we use our own proprietary BMS. That allows for customizations and flexibility working with various cell types and applications. Our batteries are capable of delivering around 60 parameters of battery information, including the state of health, state of charge, number of cycles, operating temperature, discharge currents, and more. All this information can be delivered live using various communication protocols such as CAN bus, SM bus, and Bluetooth, or saved in the history data log, so you know exactly how the end users are using your applications. Another leading feature we have to offer is the ability to connect battery packs in parallel for charging and discharging to achieve higher energy output and capacity. Next slide, please. So some company milestones, we started in 2013. That's when we developed our first ever drop-in replacement battery for iRobot Roomba. Back then, Roombas came with a nickel metal battery, which offered about 200 cycles. Our lithium battery is a drop-in replacement. You don't have to change a thing, and it offered 800 cycles, 4 times the cycle life. We also put a medical battery through UL, IEC, and UN certification in 2015. It was a custom-made battery. 2017, we supplied custom-made battery for military-grade electric vehicles. And in 2019, we received our first patent for a low-temperature operation solar battery system, which incorporated a heating element and some software algorithms. By now, we have 8 patents total and 17 patents pending. Our future plan is to continue to advance our BMS and form partnerships in the US for domestic manufacturing. Next page, please. So here are some of our successful products and applications. We work a lot with electric vehicles, solar energy storage, medical accessories, robotic vacuums, backup power, solar energy storage, robotics. Next page. So our ask. Our ask is for the opportunity to take our proven technology and business model and further expand the industries and channels we work with, partnering with OEM, ODM companies. We would like to form partnerships that are US based for domestic manufacturing, utilizing our proprietary BMS. Additionally, we are also seeking strategic partnerships, such as with the US government, to further develop our technology. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Open up the floor for questions. Go ahead on.
So Stan, what's next down the pike, what you're attempting to do, and what's preventing you from making that next step? Is it a technical thing, or is it just money that's going to get you to that next step? And what is that?
We already have proven technology. We've proven that our batteries can drop and replace lead acid batteries in numerous different applications. And we just want to further grow our business. We want more exposure to the applications out there that are using lead acid batteries. They want to switch over to lithium. We want to take on new projects that are looking for a battery solution that never had a battery before. Our limitations include our engineering resources. So funding would be really helpful. Our limitations are the channels that we have exposure to, that we are working with, and in general, just to be able to grow it and repeat our proven business model.
Are you looking at solid state or anything like that? I know that that's a little bit further away in the future, given where the market is, but
yeah, that's definitely within our radar.
Okay, thanks.
I'll just throw in for Stan's side, just so you know, Owen's background. Owen's an analyst for the United States Air Force, and Stan and his team are going after government funding currently. They're looking to do an additional platform that would be, which would expand their capability set. So just to be very, very clear where Owen's angle is coming from.
Yeah, definitely want to talk a little bit more about what you're looking at as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Stan, I'm not clear. Are you a battery manufacturer? That is, do you make cells or do you repackage cells?
So we take cells, we work with cell companies, we utilize various cells from different countries, different brands, many different cell chemistries, and we integrate the cells with our battery management system. We own the battery management system. And along with that, we custom design the tooling, the mechanical housing, and we offer the complete package. So anything from shipping to certifications to even help with integration with various applications. So we are the complete package for battery solutions.
Okay, so I'm sorry, sorry, Mark, one question. The word secret sauce was used with one of the earlier presentations. If you had to say, what are the 2 things that are your secret sauce, things that somebody else can't do, what would they be?
I think it would be the software that goes into managing the batteries.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Mark.
That involves, cell balancing, communications, protection parameters, gas gauge. So quite a bit that goes into it, aside just from the hardware, the packaging.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank
So
you.
in essence, you're a systems integrator of sorts around the technology to make this go with your proprietary add-in, which is great. So then do you take prime responsibility in the supply, or are you usually positioned as some sort of a subprime relationship?
We like to take prime position. We have a close working relationship with many large cell manufacturers. We know the supply chain very well. So we like to take responsibility in that. Then again, we do partner with cell companies as well, and they want us to use their cells. So in that case, we would just take their cells, go through a verification validation process, and then offer them a complete solution in return.
And what's the main mechanism by which you find your opportunities these days?
We do a lot of trade shows. We do a lot of advertisements. Eagle Point Funding is now helping us. We partnered with them, and we've worked with a very wide range of applications. Like I mentioned before, robotics, electric vehicles, solar energy storage, and I think what we are really good at is lead acid replacement battery packs that are 60 volts DC and under.
Marshall, I saw your hand raised. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I think my question is more around, I think you've mentioned you designed EV batteries for the military at some point. Did you go through the Navy's safety certifications for those batteries when you did that?
I'm not sure what the Navy certifications are, but I know the electric vehicles were used for the military as well as mining.
Okay.
Stan, one question. I know that particularly lithium ion and other chemistry batteries are becoming very difficult to get these days due to demand. Are you having problems with the supply chain?
That's a very good question. Yes, we are. We've experienced major shortages throughout the pandemic. Our lead time went from 4 to 6 weeks to upwards of 8 to 13. Currently, we have gotten it back down to about 7 weeks. There's a lot of negotiating, a lot of leveraging your relationships, a lot of paying in advance and just fighting for these allocations, and as well as a lot of planning for your future, making sure that you have allocations with these companies that you have ties with.
Great. We've been doing a lot of work in the battery space recently, and we realize how many plants are actually either under construction or on the drawing boards to be built within the next 18 months, and it's staggering. It's mind-blowing.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that was Stan Chan presenting for Lithium Power. Anybody wants to be in touch with Stan can be in touch over the chat. And now we move on to our last presentation of the event, Exacom, and pitching is Dominique Diaz, who is General Manager of Exacom.
Hello. So Exacom, I'm the founder and the CEO of the company. Exacom is a software company. We have developed a product called Pluto Analytics. And so we address here the industrial industry. So all the factory plants, we want to help energy managers to leverage their data and get analytics from their plants. So next slide, please. We come to the situation that today every industry will have to reduce their energy and carbon, and every industry will have to have in place an energy manager capable to do the job. Today there is a clear situation. Those people don't have the right tools because most of them working with old-fashioned products like Excel, and they're looking for efficiency. Today, only few companies have an energy manager in place. So this is the result of our investigation. And so this is a fantastic and crazy market growing every year dramatically with big growth. So in front of this, next slide, please. We tried to check what was the real problem of those guys to do their jobs. And in fact, they are facing to a very complex environment. A plant, a factory is a lot of technology from multiple systems. And most of their experience is based with the complex solutions, very difficult to implement and hard to connect. So at Hexacom, next slide, please. We tried to find a solution, and the solution was to create a product called Pluto, where we were able to combine all technologies together in one integrated product, where we will be able to connect in one click every data source, every information about the energy and the production data, to be able to analyze, monitor, analyze, and share the informations across the enterprise. So the focus of the company was to try, more than a product, to put in place a methodology, simple methodology, fast methodology, and intelligent methodology to do the job. So, and Pluto is the product that can help those guys to do that. Next slide, please. So the product was made, first of all, to connect all piece of data from any kind of systems that we find in the past 30 years in the industry. So we have developed during years all the connectors to collect those data. We put in place the technology to create and transform those data into analytics, for them to be able to create the KPIs and the alarms to manage and monitor their plants. Next slide, please. The second step of the job of Pluto is to be able to offer to those guys an easy tool to design themselves, because they know their plant more than us. So if they can design themselves their plans, they will be in minutes being able to connect their data, in minutes able to analyze their data, and of course to share it with the community. And the community can be internal community about executives across the plant, or can be external community with the outside companies like regulation companies, where they have to provide and explain the behavior of their plants. Next slide, please. The product allows people to create multiple applications to, and for example, we can do with Pluto some reporting applications, monitoring application, live analysis application, and even mobile applications. So the magic of the tool is to provide multiple applications, because there is multiple people that are interested to get those data in multiple formats. So we try to put no limits in terms of data aggregation and no limits in terms of data application. Next slide, please. As a fact today, the company in the past 10 years was able to deploy the product in multiple countries. We are an R&D company, so we are working mainly with partners worldwide. We have a network of qualified system integrators that can help people to deploy the system. And we are working today in three main sectors: smart factories, which represent 70% of the company revenue, because the smart factories is the main market today for us. We saw also that there is a big need for smart city applications, because they're also energy consumers, and they need help to manage.
Hi, Dominic, 30 seconds.
And finally, there is a growing market for us, which is the smart machine. I saw fantastic smart printers during the presentation. I cannot imagine the smart printer without a smart application to manage and monitor the printers. Finally, next slide, please. We have, next slide, please. We have a lot of references, so you can see some testimonials. The team is based with experienced senior executives that we have more than 30 years of experience in the automation. Next slide, please. You have my contact information in this slide. And as a conclusion, the ask is, we are looking for partners to help us to deploy the solution worldwide. Why? Because we have the key references, we have the product, we have the references. We just need to have a network of partners to deploy the solution worldwide. And maybe we can also be hoping to have an investment to help us to grow fast. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dominic. Opening up the floor for any questions for Dominic.
So Dominic, if you think about what you've just told us about the energy managers and the tools, why is it that they come to Pluto? What does Pluto do or allow them to do that can't be done if they went to, you know, Schneider or Siemens or one of the large companies with ThingWorx or their MindSphere environments to do industrial IoT?
And there's two reasons. The first one is the company you mentioned, they base their strategy on cloud-based solutions. And the customers I know, they all need local solutions. So Pluto as a software can be installed locally in the plant to secure the data of those industrial people. So most of them, and I have many examples when we work with Ariane Group, with General Mills, Danone, they all reject cloud-based solutions. So that's why those companies are out immediately. The second reason is the methodology. Pluto is simple. We spend hours, years on R&D to turn complex things into simple things. So it means that those customers, after 2 days training and practice with us, they are ready to go. And this is for them incredible.
Time for last question.
Tom, can you cite a couple of installations as case examples where they're using Pluto exclusively for energy management purposes?
Yes, we have many examples. We have hundreds of references. So if you take groups like Ariane Group, you know, I don't know if you are familiar with Ariane and Airbus Group. Airbus, okay. So as you know, those guys are building airplanes, but they're also doing weapons, arms, missiles. So they have sensitive plants. So no data can get out of the plant. So the energy managers of all plants are adopting Pluto for each plant. And so everything is local. They collect data from energy counters, but also from the process, because they want to know, because they know the plants more than anyone else. They want to be able to manage and monitor this by themselves with a product that can allow them to be independent and protected.
Thank you.
Have groups like Lafarge. Lafarge is just in Europe is about 500 plants. So those guys, they do not trust in any cloud because data is, as we saw, there is strict rules. Every company has a cyber security department, and they reject to send data out of the plant. So again, those guys, they want a local solution. We call that on-premise solutions. And Pluto is one of the unique products in the world to do that.
Merci. Gracias.
You're welcome.
Oh, and did you have a question? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, so the software manages, does it offer options for optimization of energy usage while platforms or whatever is being used in real time, or no?
Of course, yes. We all come from the automation world. We work during years into big PLC companies, I will not name them. And then we work on the SCADA systems, HMI, control systems. And now we are focusing on analytics because this is what we call the 4.0 revolution. And so because we are automation guy first, everything we do is real-time connectivity We log data in databases and we provide real-time analytics.
With options for optimization, like maybe embedded AI or something that says, based on what we've learned from this platform, et cetera, and energy management, here are some options for optimization of your energy usage real time.
We can do it. We have some partnerships with AI companies. They connect, they provide their algorithms to the Pluto platform. They collect, they can get the data from the aggregation we do. And so they run their algorithms and they deliver the data, the results of the data, and Pluto display the results. We have, for example, companies doing what we call digital twins of the process, because people wants to see the difference between the ongoing process and the changes they do in the optimization, and the digital twins allows them to see the gap between the changes they did before and after the change, in fact. So we have a partnership with what we call data scientist companies, and we intend also to implement in the next future our own AI algorithms into the product. The product, you know, you have to imagine Pluto as an integrated solution. Data collection, data logging is a bunch of technology, because we can connect to any system. We can say that we can go anywhere in the world and we can leverage data from any system. So this is the first piece of the software. The second piece of the software is to transform data into analytics. So we have mathematical engines inside, and we provide the friendly solution for people to do their own algorithms. And we open the system for third-party companies to be able to put their own algorithms to the system. And finally, we have the application part, which is an intuitive and friendly, user-friendly application development tool based on a no-code software. It's just configuration, and people can do reports, analytics, dashboards. They can do multiple applications. And this is Pluto, and the integration of all of this into one software and unique software is unique today in the market.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And that concludes the Energy Showcase. Thank you very much, Dominique.
Thank you.
I'll just give a quick recap of what we heard about, and also talk about our upcoming showcase. So up next is the Smart City Showcase. Well, kind of up next. And we'll talk about something that's going to happen in between. But we have May 26th is the Smart City Showcase, which would be an excellent event. So please get in touch with us if you'd like to participate in one shape or form, whether it's on the panel or pitching, or even if it's in the audience. We also have coming up, I'll just skip to it, a unique event, which is going to happen between now and the Smart City Showcase, which is a closed event only for investors and for Air Force stakeholders, which is focused on Stratify and TACFI. This is part of an accelerator program that we run for companies that are eligible for a match funding initiative, because they've won Air Force Phase 2 funding from the Air Force's SBIR program. And they become eligible for match funding to help them go from prototype to commercially viable product, and deliver it to an Air Force customer in waiting. So it's a fantastic event, and if you're interested and you fit the bill of either being an Air Force stakeholder or an investor, please reach out to us to learn more about the program. Today we had a fantastic panel from session 1, which is the open topic, the agnostic industry focus, where we heard from 6 different companies. Then we moved on to the renewable and the alternative energy, where we also had a great panel there as well. We heard from 4 companies, and we're just finishing up the power management and supporting systems, where we were joined by Mark Roth and Greg Bauer, both from Spinnaker Venture Partners, Ed Lavender from the United States Air Force, Marshall Witkowski from Defense Innovation Unit, and Owen Sanford from United States Air Force. And we heard from 5 companies: Exacom, Lithium Power Inc., Resonant Link, ChemCubed, and QCore. And with that, we conclude our event. Please be in touch. And if you would like to get more information about the companies that you heard today, please be in touch with us. I will just put Samuel, if you could just put your email in the chat one more time so everybody have that. Mine is pretty simple. It's josh@deeptechshowcase.com. And thank you everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you at the next event.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, presentation companies. Very interesting.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.